Hey, what's the rules, Rick? Can we have the camera off while we're shoving this in our face? Is that possible?
I think we could,
Yeah,
just so it's recording.
I think we used to.
Yeah.
Save the whole puzzle.
Get shy all of a sudden.
I was thinking for you, you know, you're kind of messy. Oh, okay, thanks.
She's like.
I know, you could hear it in there. Lance and I were talking and it was echoing through it. It was like, oh.
Went to Chick-fil-A and got grilled, and how is that even possible? Nobody pretty grilled on me.
Somebody was concerned about your cholesterol.
Girlish figures.
I mean, they should be, but.
They added bacon to mine, so.
Oh,
There you go. They're worried, they're just not that worried.
They want to trick you, but not totally trick you.
When the owner need that.
Your Uncle Jed. Yeah.
Like I tell Lisa, she says, I want to feed you healthy, and I said, I'm just gonna eat twice as much.
Exactly.
Same amount of calorie intake.
I love it.
Would you please put a bag of chips? Oh, okay, so thinking.
Jed, how's that titanium working? You getting better?
Wow.
Yeah?
Impressed. Not stronger.
Yeah.
You have to exercise there.
Right.
It's a lot. It doesn't have as much pain.
Good.
That's good. Hopefully I'll be able to ride.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, guys.
Hi,
Hello.
Tammy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Uncle Jed?
I didn't want you to
I
go
feel
back.
like we had the same, we had that same delivery that I did, right?
I know. You guys are like,
We've been
maybe
practicing.
related somewhere.
She's my niece.
Well,
You
that
didn't know
explains,
that?
I didn't know that.
Oh,
That
shit.
explains everything. In a good way.
Boy,
No.
talk about tongue in cheek.
Pretty sure I just got run over by the.
Oh, man.
We do. And then they backed up.
Oh, son. Harvey must have been sitting.
That's a great compliment for Jed, though.
Oh, I bet you're on the phone. We're there for him.
Oh, hi, Bren.
Long time no talk.
I know. You ready to get this party going?
Let's get her going.
Yeah.
We good. Sarah coming? So far. Okay,
Haven't heard otherwise.
I swear our phone is outside.
we got a quorum, so. All right, I'd like to welcome you all out to our pre-meeting. Today's April 9th. Go ahead and get started. First item we got. ZMA 2024 to rezone West Creek Estates, public hearing and rezone. Bill?
I'm afraid that if you said crit, they might actually know what you were talking about, so
Uh,
it's good for you,
Straightened it out.
So we talked about this, a month ago. Nothing's really changed since the work session. One of the things you'll note is that we will have a development agreement associated with this to make sure that we get the connectivity and the trails associated with it all lined out. And really get an agreement with the park district to make sure that there's some participation there. Staff reports in front of you. I don't really have much more to add than what you have. So if you have any questions. happy to
Questions, comments,
entertain.
concerns? This one, pretty simple. Fits in the general plan, right?
Yeah, seems to fit pretty well.
Sewer, what are they doing for sewer?
Big buckets, I think.
They don't have to decide that, do they?
No,
We
and
just have to have availability letter, which we have.
they do. It's in your staff report. But they've got their little mountain. There's in
We need to
conversation.
fix our ordinance when it comes to that.
They're in conversation
Well,
with
before.
West Weaver as well.
Well, at least, I mean, they're talking a sewer system that's 10 miles away, the closest pipe. And I mean, it just, in my opinion, it just doesn't do justice to even the applicants, because yeah, we're gonna grant a rezone, but how quick are they gonna get a 10-mile sewer line in there? to actually make it something they can do, so at least something that's you know. But right now, it's availability, that's all the,
Okay.
What's a little bit unfortunate about these kind of situations is you get the rezone, and then if this thing sits or sells and sits, then we got a mess down there.
Yeah.
The land sits, it doesn't get taken care of, and it creates a mess. So, yeah, we need to do something a little bit different, I agree.
as the way it sits today, they met all the requirements. Fits the general plan.
There's a little bit of a balance there, because the more you require a developer to put in, the more they feel like they've got an investment back expectation of a return. And so there's a balance between requiring them to have the availability and then the actual, like, does this pencil for them? And honestly, it's not our lookout whether or not it pencils for them.
Right.
That's up to them. That's a business decision. Our question tonight is this the right time? And is this the right place? Now, if there was no availability for sewer, then no, this wouldn't be the right time. And they wouldn't have had a letter from the sewer district that says that they could provide. If it's a 10-mile pipe to get out to Little Mountain, then the value of the property would be either lessened or increased to pay for that pipe, so.
Well, they can do the pipe anytime they want,
Yes, once it's rezoned, they can do it anytime they need to.
10 miles is a long ways, but the people selling the land hopefully calculate that in, so, you know, sometimes that works.
Okay, nothing else on that one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Taylor Landing Rezone, we talked with them last time. I'm just gonna throw out a suggestion on this one. We talked about it in our chair vice chair meeting. Similar to what happened with Navy Meadows. They're filing and wanna do a general plan amendment, but they didn't actually file for the amendment side of it. They're asking for a rezone that requires general plan amendment, so my recommendation is we can hold the public hearing because it's been noticed that way. Let's take public comment if they're there, want to speak to it, but then I think we need to table this and send it back to them and say, look, you need to go do the paperwork the right way, file for the general plan amendment, then we can move on the actual rezone once it's there, because the way, what they're asking for now to rezone open space, we gotta amend the general plan to do that if we do that. So,
I agree, Brian. How do we stop
What
this
do you
from
think,
happening over
Charlie?
and over again? Where do we catch it to where it doesn't come here and be a public notice?
Yeah.
Thanks, Rick.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about that. We did tell the applicant about a year ago when they were first talking about this, that it would probably require a general plan amendment. For whatever reason, they didn't apply for a general plan amendment. It wasn't until after notices were sent out for the rezone that I pulled the math, I did the comparison and realized that a year ago I said you need to apply for a general plan amendment. And so notices were already sent out at that point. I thought we could resend notices out and say, oh, never mind, cancel. But challenges is making sure we have all the ducks in a row and all the questions answered 2 weeks, at least half a month before the planning commission meeting. And sometimes that's just not very possible.
I get it.
And that's why it's happened 3 or 4 times. We're trying hard not to do it again, but this one I had forgotten. And it blindsided me and I pulled the map up and I said, oh.
When you look at all the
And it
ones that
sets
we've
the very
reviewed 2 or 3 times, really isn't that significant for all the things we went through, right? Like, I mean, it's gonna happen, so I get it.
Yeah.
So, sorry, just a clarification. I haven't looked at it as closely, but it's open space because it was a cluster subdivision? Okay.
So that's the other side of it. It really comes down to how closely you want to prescribe the boundaries on that map. Are they flexible lines? Are they inflexible lines? They're definitely not survey level accurate lines, but that was colored green because it was in a cluster subdivision. It was supposed to be permanently preserved open space. Same thing with Winston. Fortunately with Winston, I was able to catch them and say, whoop, real quick, file a general plan amendment, because we gotta run that as well. Just so there's no question about it. I think that you guys could move on the rezone, and say, look, we understand why the map was painted green, because it was permanently preserved open space, but that line is not a line of finality. It's not, survey level accurate, and, we gotta find a way to pay for the road that goes through that open space. And so maybe this is close enough to the R115 area. So I've got three alternatives for you. That's alternative one. Alternative two is still positive. You can recommend approval, but stipulate your recommendation on them first coming back to you with the general plan amendment. So tell us you don't want your recommendation to go to the county commission until after that general plan amendment has happened. Or just table it, deny it.
I like the third option. I feel like they were told, and they should have followed process.
Well,
So if it's tabled, it's on them.
the point of the survey accurate level, I get that on the map, but this was approved through a previous subdivision that it was dedicated open space.
Right.
So I get the map lines there, but we all know based on previous approvals and what that was supposed to be, that's why it was in the map it was. And so
Okay.
that's why I feel the way I feel about, I see your point. I mean, we're not talking just because that's where that line crosses, but given the circumstances leading up to this one.
Yeah.
This exact piece we're talking about was known to stay open space on that map.
Definitely, and I can see why you're passionate about it, because you know the history.
Well, and I wanna, I mean, there's a process, like Casey said, there's a process, follow the process.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
like it.
not saying we're against it, not saying it's not gonna move forward, but right now, once the steps are in place, then we can act on things.
No,
Do you guys want, in this hearing, assuming you do table it, do you want to give feedback to the applicant, what you do like, what you don't like? I mean, it might be helpful for us to be able to come back with some of your requested changes, in next month's meeting.
I think it'd be great, given that it's a public hearing and we're still gonna act on the public hearing, that I think we should have some discussion based on feedback we get from the public and comments that are received in the area or because of the area and what was sent out. And I mean, and I'm sure in your presentation, you'll talk a little bit about what the parks donation and stuff like that is. And I have great concern over what they're giving the parks or what they're not giving the parks and what we're getting in trade. We've had this discussion a million times. It's a fine line there, but this is one where, I mean, dirt that's not gonna grow grass being valued at $20,000 and $30,000 in a trade to the parks, in my opinion, it's gonna be difficult.
Tough sell.
Well, just, I mean, knowing, like you said, knowing the area, knowing the history, knowing the soils, knowing what's back there. And I mean, we could pull back clear up in the days of the cluster when it was approved as a cluster, when more or less fights happened because, you know, the cluster code said develop on the worst ground, save the good ground. Well, we developed on the good ground and give away the shitty ground, and that's where we're at today. So,
Well, I agree, and this, they're asking for a favor, right? They already got what they
We
wanted
talked that
originally,
way.
now they're getting more. They should give them.
So
at least this is a work session, not a formal setting here.
Parks
I'll
and
do better over there.
The Parks and Open Space component, as you can tell from the amount of information I gave you in the staff report, is probably my greatest concern on this. My recommendation on this one, if you were to grade it from a hard recommendation, better do this versus a soft recommendation, I'm more on the softer side. Of the positive recommendation, it really is, what are your guys' policy perspectives on this? I see this a couple of different ways as I document the staff report. If you're just going from the cluster subdivision perspective, open space is open space is open space. Whether you can use it as a park or a farmer gets to keep the private right of exclusion on it. The cluster subdivision says they're equal to each other. Now, I think we can all sit down and say, well, being able to go play at a playground is probably way more valuable to the community than looking at somebody's field. But the cluster code didn't see it that way. So if you wanted to look at it the way the cluster code did, then they're donating open space that is already open space. Therefore, it's a zero value. And then I gave you an analysis of just the potential cost breakdown, of what that donation could have been turned into otherwise. Because there is conservation or open space preservation easement on it that the county owns right now, only farming could happen on it. And so the way we want to value, if you're looking at it at dollars and cents perspective, is if they're donating the land, then they're donating a financial contribution to the park district, and we can calculate what that is. I looked at what the assessor's office is showing as the fair market value for other open space preservation parcels, privately owned preservation parcels. And it worked out to be roughly 30,000. There were some really big outliers in some of those. I couldn't figure out why some of them were valued so high and others were valued so low, but about 30,000. But I don't disagree with Fran. If to this developer, not just to somebody who wants to buy the land, but to this developer, that land is fairly worthless. I mean, there's not
It's
a
not
whole,
developable, it has no building rights.
there's no building rights, and it's gonna take a lot of effort to make it farmable. And so is that enough of a donation to the community? I know, after, reading through the letter from the Park District, that they're eager to get the land donation because they don't have title to that land. They've got title to the property right next door, and once they do have title, they can start turning all the other money that's been donated to them into actual improvements. And so there might be some serious value, greater value to them than we might otherwise be expecting. I just didn't want to tell you guys what your policy perspective should be on this. I reached out to the developer and I said, I think you're at least $400,000 shy of a fair donation to the park district. Asked them to install a pathway around the perimeter at the park. They said, we think it's fair. We want to go forward as it is. So you guys are here.
Well, I mean, simple numbers of it, and granted, they're gonna do it similar to like Winston Park has done, rezone the other lots, right? So total subdivision be 120 something lots, right, Charlie?
122.
But the new additional lots is only 70 something lots.
That's right.
So, I mean, putting it from a perspective, they're developing open space, gaining 70 lots that, like Sarah said, it didn't have the density before. So,
When you say total subdivision, that's 4, 5, and 6. If you were going to include 1, 2, and 3,
are they doing 1, 2, and 3?
my recommendation is to rezone 1, 2, and 3, just because once the park is a park, if it does become a park, that's no longer open space associated with cluster subdivision. We might as well just call it what it is.
Yeah.
Those are 50,000 square foot lots. But you don't have to. It's just my recommendation. They're only asking for a rezone of the new phase 6, which is old phase 4 and 5 open space, and the old phase 4 and 5 lots. They want those ones to be the R115.
Well, I think that's the best way to do it, if we have the ability to do that where they're already platted and everything. I agree, cleans up the map, but just
Yeah.
We do
do
legally,
away with that stinking cluster.
we do legally, the
We'll
only,
get rid of them one way or another.
the only criteria the state code gives us is we have to notify everybody who lives in that who owns property in that area that's being proposed to be rezoned. They have the right to protest. Any protest that they submit in writing will be given to the county commission, which is the way it works anyway. And so far, I've had 2 calls, and both calls are fairly positive to the change. Rezoning the park as open space, so it stays open space from a zoning perspective, give it to the park district, they seem to be fine with it.
So if you, maybe you did it and I missed it in the report, but if you average that out by rezoning the whole R115 like you did on Winston Park,
Mhm.
what does that number look like?
If you exclude, so it's actually in the, pull that up, it's in the tables. And I know that's a lot of numbers and hard to wrap your head around that, but
Page 4.
yeah, thank you. Yep. On page 4, so phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that's table 1, that's the existing development, which includes open space associated with it. So you could see you got phases 4 and 5. Your total area for 4 and 5 is 25.6 acres and 20.3 acres. You see where I am on the table?
Yeah.
Bottom of page 4. And then you see the number of lots that come out of phase 4 and 5, so 28 in phase 4, 31 in phase 5. You can see the amount of open space acreage that comes out of those phases, so 15 acres for phase 4, 9 acres for phase 5, that's total open space. If you were to take 1 through 6, so changing phase 4 and 5 4 and 5 open space to phase 6, table 2 shows you what the differences are. So when we're talking potential, so allowable, they could have gotten 304 lots out of it. They're asking for 214 out of phases 1 through 6. If you're just looking at 4, 5, and 6, and this might not be, maybe I didn't capture this in the staff report. It is, it's 1 for 1. It's almost an exact flip over. They had almost exactly 50% open space in phase 4 and 5 that they would now want to create as phase 6. And so if you take that, you divide it out, and you calculate that compared to the amount of open space that they are going to be giving to the park district, it's about 6. However, that park district, or that space going to the park district, 22 acres, is already open space tied to phases 1, 2, and 3. And so it just depends on whether or not you value park open space significantly higher than farm open space. And if you do, maybe that can be, what's that?
If it's got improvements, but this is open space, it's open space, it's open space. It's not-
So, and I don't know if I gave a ton of detail. I reached out to the chair and vice chair. I did the math. Did I send it, the math on the cost of parks to anybody else? Is that blank stares? Okay, good. So I did the math, tabulated what the real cost of parks are for the Western Weaver County area. I just wanted to see if West Warren Park District, if I could substantiate their numbers independently. And I could. $7,500 a lot is maybe even on the low side for some of these developments. And just to tell you how I did that, I gathered the cost to build parks as documented in the capital facilities plans or impact fee facilities plans of several different cities in the area, the ones that I could find their facilities plans easily online because I didn't spend a ton of time Googling around. And found that Syracuse City, for example, they've got a high amount of improvements in the parks that they have developed. And so if you were to multiply the number of improved acres of park that they have by the number that the Halo West Weaver Park District could get out of this transaction, which is 32 acres or so, then you get your multiplier and then you just do the math and say, all right, volleyball, maybe that is, maybe instead of 5 courts, it's 2 courts or 2.5 courts. And so we just tried to compare like for like compared to the scale. And honestly, if you plug in $30,000 an acre for undevelopable farmland, it turned into like $8,500 cost. If you change that to $75,000 an acre, as if it is developable land, that's a lot closer to a $10,000 per lot cost. Now, with that in mind, that is the true cost to build the amount of park infrastructure that Syracuse City has in their park acreage. What is missing from that calculation is that Syracuse City is only at a level of service 2.33 per 1,000 residents, 2.33 acres of park space per 1,000. And we know that this area out here wants to be at 10 acres per 1,000. And so that's why the number is so much higher. If you actually look at the impact fee for Syracuse City, I mean, it might be a couple grand. Because impact fees cannot be used to increase levels of service. They can only stay at 2.33 no matter how many new homes are built. And so they can only charge a developer to maintain that 2.33. If they want to go above and beyond that 2.33, they got a tax to do that. Or they got to get donations. Out here, we've got opportunity to get donations. And so that's where the number comes from, and that's why it's so high. Now, I looked at 4 other jurisdictions as well. The one that has the highest open space / parks per 1,000 is Highland, out of the ones I looked at, and they've got like 12.5 acres per 1,000. But I would venture a guess probably 85 to 90% of that is just natural open space. So you're not looking at improvements. South Ogden City, I thought probably had the best and most comparable to us. They've got 5 or 6 acres per 1,000. They're estimating that, at least in 2019, 65% of their park acreage was developed park space. And I thought that was a good number because that really helped me compare developed park area to undeveloped park area. We're gonna have a lot of undeveloped park area along that river. And if we did that math, multiply it by, whatever the factor is to get it to 10 acres per 1,000, that was closer to $7,000, $7,500. So I think we're there. I think that's the number. And if you applied that to this project, which of course the developer didn't do that because up until now, we've been talking about somewhere around a couple thousand a lot. And so they're looking at they were doing the math different, but staff report considers it at about 7,500 a lot. So just so you guys know.
We're gonna have a joint work session with the county commission and the Parks District just to throw those numbers out and show staff's support for those numbers. So I think it will be not this Monday, but the following,
Yep, I haven't set it up yet, but yes, that's the plan.
kind of shooting towards, so.
Yep, a week from this next Monday. Something that Joe Giordano said that kind of slapped me in the face a little bit in our work session with them last month was I was concerned that if we're asking too much for these parks, you're just not gonna get the development that the general plan anticipates because it's not gonna pencil if we're too high. And he said, then we're not being impacted by development and we don't need it. And that is the attitude that we had when we wrote the general plan. The general plan basically says that. He's taken that directly out of the plan. So it will be helpful for us to verify with the county commission that they're okay with that number. Knowing that the alternative is that it's too expensive to build and maybe it takes a long time for people to develop. What it means if it's too expensive to build is it doesn't mean that development won't happen. It means that landowners are gonna take a haircut on selling the property. But probably not any more of a haircut than if they just sold it at 40,000 square foot lot development patterns under the A1 zone, so.
Going to third, you're getting 3 times
I would say,
what they could leave it as an acre density.
yeah, I would say we're probably getting a little bit too high if we start rubbing up against what the cluster subdivision code could have gotten a developer. If they can get 50% extra density, so 150% of the density they could have otherwise gotten, and not do park space, do individually owned or open space, and not do significant trails and not do significant street connections, and make that pencil better than what we're asking them to do plus 7,500 a lot, then we're probably getting a little bit too high on our request. So we don't want to encourage them to just keep developing at the A1 zone patterns. Okay, that's all I have. It's my TED talk.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thanks for coming.
Limited if it all gives.
Yeah, it's like, I was at 20.
They had any choice.
Then we get a couple work sessions. We pulled the parks work session off,
We did.
correct?
Yep.
So windmill and then Navy.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else before we adjourn to our meeting?
You guys,
The other meeting?
do you want to come back here for the work session or do it up there?
I think it's better than here.
I prefer them in here, but,
I do too.
okay.
Maybe in the public hearing, you should want to. Yeah, sorry. Things went out, you were done before we got here.
Hey, Bill, will you respond, I'm gonna shoot you an email, but on that response about, the HOA. Well, the county taking over the roads and that.
Yeah.
The response of Charlie said,
Yeah.
you respond back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna forward you.
I've been talking with her anyway, so
Okay.
I know. Is her name like Heather?
I think so, I'll forward you.
Did you see my response to Rick? Sidewalk is the biggest thing. If they can afford sidewalk, and Larry says that that road meets.
That's what I've been telling her that.
You're quick. Great meeting with the commission.
Doing well?
This.
Oh.
Was that? What do you mean? Oh, you had a great meeting. Sorry. I was like, what did we miss?
Before this meeting.
So they like the.
I don't have anything negative to say, but nothing positive either. But there's nothing negative, no red, nothing red. Sharon is absolutely what we wanna do. Sharon and Gary both talking about it, and Bryn is at, Gage about it. I feel like it's just a 12-street over. Sharon, what you guys? Oh, that's exactly what I'm talking about now. I couldn't remember the word. That's what I am. Yeah, pretty stuffy. This story is over here. On 12th.
Yeah.
That's where the main traffic is coming in. She said, and they said, yeah, this is not what needs to be done on that. These, something like this. She said the same thing that Sarah said, is it needs to blend. Do the towns on the front with elevated,
They said the same thing that we had talked about, not commercial necessarily, but the ability to have 11, 12 foot on the main.
Yeah.
Be live work type of things right now would be more just live. And
At some point in time, if it goes commercial, it goes.
They were super excited.
We have your account bill.
Still possible. Still, yeah, we had what's called big shots coming in. And then they kind of backed out when interest rates skyrocketed, the banks a lot. We had backers. Yeah, well, interest rate rose, we had to bring in 3 more million into the bank to get the loan. Well, yeah, we'll put a hold on that. All right. But we're still in talks with actual Topgolf. Yeah. So when, I just didn't want the planning commission to think I'm gonna take the switch. This is going, I still want this to go moving.
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, I don't want them to see this proposed and then all of a sudden I come with something else. And I told the commissioners, they're like, thank you, Pat. We really appreciate that you're not. Well, look, I just got this a week ago, so, but I told them we were gonna go ahead and receive this tonight, and they said they were all okay with it. But the 12th Street opening is what, and Gabe is who I hear the most, and they didn't repeat it back to me. So you're okay. Sure, I can say this in a.
Say it into my lapel pin.
Over here yet? Just waiting on you.
We good, Marta? Good? Okay. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone out to the Western Weaver Planning Commission meeting. Tonight, it is April 9th, 2024. This is our regular scheduled meeting. If y'all wouldn't mind, stand and repeat the pledge with me. Thank you for that. All right, go ahead and let the record indicate that all Planning Commission members are in attendance for tonight's meeting, and I appreciate all your time and willingness to serve and be here with us. First item on our agenda is going to be a legislative item, ZMA 2024. This will be a public hearing for West Creek Estates GBAR rezone. Discussion and possible action on a request for a recommendation of a zoning map amendment to rezone approximately 30 acres of property located at approximately 6200 west, 900 south from the A1 zone to the R115 zone. Director Grover?
Thank you, Chair. This is a legislative item, and as such, you'll be making a recommendation to the County Commission. You will be looking at the general plan, how it's meeting those requirements, and how it's not. As you after Mr. Cobabe gives his presentation, you can ask questions and things like that, but then you will also need to open and close a public hearing on this.
Thank you, sir. Bill, Mr. Cobabe, what do you got for us?
Hope everybody's enjoying this beautiful spring day,
We're stuck in here.
and we're stuck in here. Well, we're doing the work of the county, right? That's what we're here for. As mentioned, this is a rezone request for about 30 acres of land. It's located roughly on 900 South 12th Street and about 6200 West. You see that here. It's currently zoned A2. There was some typos that have been going around. I just want to clarify. It is currently A2. The request is for R115. And that will be indicated in a similar color yellow that you see there on this map. It is in keeping with the Western Weaver General Plan, which anticipates the idea of some development along corridors that help to preserve open space in some areas, but kind of try to locate the density where it makes more sense. And this being an area where we anticipate future development and more density, it makes sense to do this kind of thing. You see this here in the general plan, and it's indicated as this yellow area indicated by the star as medium to large sized residential lots. So the proposal is in keeping with that, in that they're looking at around an average density of about 1/3 acre per unit. We looked at smart growth development standards. You can see them there on your screen. Went through those in pretty exhaustive detail in the staff report, so I'm not going to repeat that now. But again, it is in keeping with desired outcomes of the general plan and in keeping with these smart growth development standards. Future street maps, again, indicated by the star. You can see that they don't have any major streets going through the property, but to the west of the property is the West Weaver / Legacy corridor that would be going north to south and tie into 12th Street there, with an interchange anticipated at some point in the future. We did look at the jurisdictional wetlands. That is what you see in front of you. And again, the western portion of the property, just a small sliver, is in something that could be considered jurisdictional wetlands. The proposed development avoids that altogether. You can see that here when we get to the lot layout and road configuration. The purpose of the R1 plan is to allow for this kind of development. So we see that there. And here is the proposed lot layout configuration. You see again, it avoids that westerly, the slough or the wetlands kind of area there on the west side of the property. And I highlighted, because sometimes it's hard to see what those numbers look like. So I highlighted the density calculations, and you're seeing that based on the square footage of the property and the overall anticipated square footage of 15,000 square foot per lot, there and it could ask for up to 86 lots. They're only asking for 79, just for practical reasons. That's how that shook out like that. So again, the question on a rezone is always, and this is a legislative matter, as Director Grover pointed out, there's some basic considerations that you should think about it. And it boils down to really, is this the right time? And is this the right place for this kind of development to take place? There are other questions that are even more practical in nature, like attachments to sewer and water, all those other kinds of things. Those will be addressed in greater detail when we get to the subdivision process. Right now, technically, they've got one lot. They're asking for permission to subdivide into further into more lots. And if they have water and sewer available, the answer at that point would be yes, that this is something that is allowable under the code. So action in front of you tonight is to recommend approval or denial by the county commission, who has the ultimate say in these kind of legislative matters. And you see that the staff has put together a model motion. Again, it is to the R115. I'm not sure if the staff report makes that clear, but we want to make that clear. It is R115 is what is being requested. And you see the stipulations there associated with that. So with that, I'm available for any questions. And I think we have developer available to answer questions if you have them. So
Thanks, Bill. Any questions for staff?
In your recommendations, you have placed recommendation to have solar panels and backup batteries installed for homes over 1,800 square feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's per the smart growth principles.
It's not one that we've suggested in the past, but it is one that I'm not sure how it ended up in our, it's not something I ever discussed, but I just don't know if that's something I'd support. I like the idea, but if we're going to spend money, I don't know if that's where I'd want it.
It is something that comes from our general plan, and it's part of the natural resources conservation planning that we're trying to do, so that homes are energy efficient. So.
And I think it's sufficient to be the energy efficiency rating that is one climate zone colder than the area. I would support that, but just right now, I'm personally not. Yeah, I think the solar panels is a little bit extensive. I know it's something that's in the plan, but I'm not sure it was, it's absolutely required. It's just one of those that I don't know that I personally support.
Sure. Just to build on that a little bit, Bill, do they have to check the box on all smart growth principles?
Not necessarily. The smart growth principles are something that are there as an incentive for some types of development, but this one, because it already meets the underlying general plan requirements and what's anticipated for the area, it's a nice to have, but not necessarily a strict requirement.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions for staff?
Thanks, everybody.
I think let's move into the public hearing portion, then we can bring the applicant up afterwards. You guys good with that?
Yep.
Okay. I would accept the motion to open a public hearing on this item.
So moved.
Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are now in public hearing for this item. If you would like to speak on this item, please come up to the mic, state your name and address. Try and keep your comments to around 3 minutes. No one wants to come up? I was gonna say someone. Thanks, Nate.
Hey, what do I need to do?
Name and address.
My name and address, spelled NATHANDAVIS. I don't know my address. 3448 South, 5100 West in West Haven. Talking on the West Creek Estate subdivision. In a couple of questions. One, before I forget, because I'll get nervous, I recommend that you deny this proposal. And one thing to consider in this area is for public announcements, we may have to go like to 3/4 of a mile to get enough people here to do this. And I would almost recommend that once a group has stated something within 3/4 of a mile, for example, the Longhorn subdivision, there was a good group there. It's the same group, the same people. It's a small community. I would highly recommend that you take those recommendations and use them. The more nervous I get, the faster I talk. In some of your goals, in the subdivision on sheet 3, it says A, talking about it doesn't meet some of the master plan requirements. B, is it compatible with the overall character of existing development in the vicinity of the subject property? If not, consider the specific incompatibilities within the context of the general plan. Now, if planners want a job, they have to have developers, or we wouldn't have any planners. So planners are always yes people. I work for a city. The planners are on the yes side, and I'm on the let's do it by the right side, and let's work together and find something. So we know that developers and planners have a unique agreement to make things go forward. But if you look at your number B, I don't know how you get compatibility with that in any shape or form with what's adjacent to your area. C, to the extent which is proposed amendment may adversely affect adjacent property. Everything's agriculture out there, so it has 100% effect on any property that's nearby. E, in your own document, it says whether the proposed rezone can be developed in a manner that will not substantially degrade natural ecological resources or sensitive lands. Everything's a farm out there. Every time you put a house on it, it's going to degrade those natural resources. Why we don't build on crappy ground and leave the good stuff is beyond me. Nobody in any subdivision ever builds on the crappy ground. Never. It doesn't happen in the county. Now, if we go to your note A, it says the general plan is only a guiding document and not mandatory to follow. However, because it sets desired future community outcome, the devastation from it should be done with caution. Your own statement. In this area, there's nothing. The Longhorn subdivision went through. It probably shouldn't have got as far as it has. And we can go through your document and tear it apart. Your smart, what do you call it? Smart home growth. You meet one item out of that. One. Is there, we only good with 99% of the smart growth requirements to meet that. You know, solar, Mrs. Witch Hearn said, hey, why do you disagree with solar? In your document, it says, hey, we want to make it to a moderate income housing. Do you know how much solar costs? $60K. I inspect them 10 times a week. It's not part of the modern income housing. It can't be. And then if you break up your smart home stuff, you can tear it apart. This subdivision meets like 9 to 11%, right? Going on further down your own document, talks about compatibility. In B, whether the proposed amendment is compatible. There was a comment made, it would be challenging to argue the proposal matches the character of the existing development. And they said, however, compatibility and matching are not necessarily the same thing. And it goes on, regardless of lot size, residential uses are traditionally compatible with and most similar to other residential uses than the other types of land uses. Again, below, it says if the plan is followed, if you force this subdivision on this area, in time the surrounding area is going to likely be similar. Well, you're right. Keep on putting homes in there at 3rd-acre lots, it's all going to look the same. And some of us live in areas where our own municipality has done that to us, and we got kids playing in our backyard that we don't know where that rule comes from, right? Why other kids can play in your backyard. And then there's a huge, I know you're not the legal action for special service districts, but Chairman Edwards made a comment that Little Mountain Water Sewer District's going to get in big trouble by giving a will serve letter. And if somebody wants to run 4.5 miles of sewer for $2.2 million and have a pioneering agreement, there's not capabilities to take that 16,000 gallons of wastewater. I think it's 150, 200 gallons per ERU, 300 gallons. That's a lot. There's 2 baby ponds out there that are open ponds. It's not going to do that. And so why that district is doing that is beyond me. Somebody's going to get them in a bunch of legal trouble. And we really don't want another Cherokee subdivision that's kind of half-assed sitting there because it didn't meet all these requirements before it really got going. And especially in more areas of the county. My minutes are up, I know. But, and if we're going to, if the planning commission is going to try to function at the municipal level of services, it's time to become a city and not have the planning commission have to deal with all this other stuff. That's not what you guys are built to do. You're like a Ford truck on a racetrack. It doesn't really work. You're never going to win. So those are my comments. Thanks.
Thanks, Nate. Any other wish to speak on this item?
No clue what I'm doing. This is my first meeting ever, but my name is John Gonzalez. My address is 2002 South, 4300 West, right in front of the new high school. So this project is going right in my backyard.
This one's for the item for that subdivision's this is one out west.
Oh,
Further out west, 12th Street. You're more than welcome
Am I
to still
early?
speak, but
Well,
we'll
I'll
go to
wait.
that item next.
I wait my turn because I haven't heard, so maybe I'll
Come
speak.
back,
Well.
though.
Thank you.
Definitely come back when we go to that subdivision with Taylor Landings. All right. Anybody else? Okay. Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
A motion, do we got a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're out of public hearing. Discussion. I'll take a stab at a few of these and
I have some responses too when you're done.
okay. I mentioned this in the pre-meeting, Nate, and I appreciate the comments, especially related to sewer. Right now, county ordinance only requires us to have an availability letter. Where it's a special services district, it's kind of out of our hands. Do I agree with those letters sometimes? And do I agree with how long it's going to take to actually be able to serve those areas? But county ordinance for a rezone only requires availability, saying that they could serve them, and we have received that. Couple of the other items, some very good points were brought up. I feel, especially in relation to, like the item B, I'm of how it's compatible with it. But I think, and maybe staff could help me with this one, it's the compatibility is looking at the compatibility of the future land use map, correct? Not as it sits today, but as what that guiding document within the general plan is showing us towards. Because I agree 100%. As growth comes, and if we followed that without following the general plan, we would never see that because it would never meet that. So a lot of work was put into the general plan to get it to where it is today. As you'll see on some of these items, a general plan's a living document. It's just because we wrote it once, don't mean it's always going to be perfect. And as things change and that's why we have the process for general plan amendments to make changes to that map as seen fit to the areas. So.
All right. So yeah, about compatibility, I had the same point. We're looking right now, the zoning allows for 1 home per acre out in that area. And so it isn't really right now slated to entirely be farmland, and it hasn't been for decades. So every developer could come in and put 1 home per acre out in that area. So when we went through with the general plan, the problem with those 1 acre lots is they are very, very expensive and taxes would skyrocket. We didn't want to see that happen. And so as a planning commission, we got together and we met with residents, and a 1/3 acre is kind of what people could tolerate. Nobody really wanted density, but everyone could see that 1 acre lots was not sustainable. And so we're looking at 1 acre average density, and we're really focusing on trying to provide parks and trails and all the amenities that come with open space that people would like to have, but are not able to have at 1 acre lots. So looking at compatibility, no, new development is not compatible with what's out there right now, the farmland. But the farmland is by right, the farmers could sell and develop. And so we're looking at compatibility with the future that we're trying to create for that area to still keep it nice and available for everyone. As far as the smart growth principles, no, what's currently proposed does not meet the smart growth principles. And that is why when we make a recommendation, if we make a positive recommendation, we have a list of smart growth principles that will be included and required. That was the one I was, I agree. I have concerns about the cost of solar for moderate income housing. I think solar is great, but I find it prohibitive to affordability. And so that was one of the recommendations listed, but there's a whole list of recommendations that if we pass this, we'll be asking the developer to include things like parks and open trail spaces. So considerable donations for each residential unit to make sure that we can provide trails and parks, streets that have flow that meet the needs of the neighborhood, quality construction, lighting that keeps the, dark sky compatible lighting. And so we will be making all of those recommendations, and those will be, those smart growth principles will be part of our recommendation for this to move forward. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that as well.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I have a comment on this. I think that the thing that we need to focus on is what's ahead of us in the future. I've lived out there, I'm damn near 80 years old now. I've seen a lot of change. And the future, unfortunately, is the ag business is on the slope down. And I would just like to throw out, if you put 30 houses on these 30 acres, that's not very compatible with what's there today. So and to build on what Commissioner Wichern said is this area in 40 years will not, we won't even recognize it if we're on the planet then. And so what we have to do is do the best that we can to make sure that when we develop these places, that it all somehow fits what the future is. The advantage that we have today is we're dealing with big pieces of ground, so we have a good way of hooking all this together. It doesn't appear that way, but in the end, I think that I would rather see third-acre lots through this area out there, and maybe even higher density in some areas than 31-acre lots with 3% of them taken care of, 60% with 80 cars in the backyards, and most of them with weeds. So I think for the planning perspective is we have to view not the here and now, but what's down the road. And that's my 2 bits on that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments? Any comments from the applicant? Or questions, I guess? Quiet group. Okay. Nothing else. I'm ready for a motion then.
I move that we recommend approval of file ZMA 2024-04, an applicant-driven rezone application to amend the zoning map on 30 acres from A2 to RE15 zone. R115, sorry. I said it right and then I said it wrong. 115 zone. Property located at approximately 6200 West, 900 South, Ogden. Based on the staff recommendations of smart growth principles, numbers 1 through 5, but excluding 4A, the requirement for solar panels and backup batteries, but including findings 1 through 3, all in our packet tonight.
Okay, I've got a motion. We've got a second.
I'll second that.
Got a motion, a second. Any discussion? Okay, Commissioner McCormick. Aye. Commissioner Andriotti.
Aye.
Commissioner Favero. Aye. Commissioner Wickern.
Aye.
Commissioner Novell.
Aye.
Commissioner Clance.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. That passes. Okay. Thank you. Where'd my paper go? Next item is going to be another legislative item, item 1.2, ZMA 2024-03. This will be a public hearing on the Taylor Landing Rezone, an application to rezone approximately 45.9 acres of land located at approximately 3900 West, 1800 South from the A1 zone to the R115 zone. Director Grover.
Thank you, Chair. This is another legislative item that you'll be forwarding a recommendation on to the County Commission. It'll just be a recommendation, and then they'll have a public hearing at the same time as this item. You will also have a public hearing, open and close that public hearing. And Mr. Ewert's going to be presenting.
Right, Charlie. Just kidding. Charlie, what do you got for us?
Thanks, Planning Commissioners. So as the agenda shows, it's rezoned for about 45.9 acres as requested by the applicant. As far as a staff recommendation goes, you'll see that we've got a little bit of a different recommendation than what the applicant is asking for. It's still probably yes, men, but when it comes to what it is that ultimately happens, we think that the applicant's request needs to be modified a little bit in order to get to that yes. So question is how to get to yes. This is the general location of the project. This is in the Taylor Landing subdivision. Taylor Landing subdivision is a cluster subdivision. It's got 5 phases, phases 1 through 5. You can see here on this, actually, let me show you the next map. There we go. The Taylor Landing cluster subdivision. Over here is the high school that the gentleman mentioned on the west side. So you've got phases 1 through 3 lots, and then phases 4 through 5 lots. This is the subdivision that has already been approved. You guys have already looked at it. You already gave it approval, and so that's a foregone conclusion. The fact that there's going to be lots here, they're working on, I think, working on the final subdivision plat now. I can't remember exactly how far in the process they are, but the lot layout has already been approved there. The cluster subdivision code requires at least 50% open space be donated, or excuse me, not donated, preserved, in exchange for 50% additional density. And so in the 1 acre zone, if you had 100 acres, you could potentially get 100 lots out of that. If you do a cluster subdivision, you put 50 of those acres into a conservation easement to permanently help open space or whatever, then you potentially get 150 lots out of whatever the remainder is. And that's how you got smaller lot sizes, even though it's the 1 acre zone. That's how you got smaller lot sizes in phases 1 through 5. And it's almost sixes when it comes to how much open space. It's about 50-50 on this. They're just a hair over the amount of open space that they needed. What they want to do is they want to turn phases 4 and 5 open space to phase 6 lots. These lots will be just on the west side of the Winston Park subdivision, and just on the east side of phases 1 through 3 open space. In order to change phase 4 and 5 open space to phase 6 lots, they've got to also change phases 4 and 5, pull it out of the cluster subdivision and just make a typical standard subdivision to do that. And so they're looking to rezone. So this is the zoning map for that area right now. They're looking to rezone those legs right there, and that represents, let me go back, phase 6 lots and phases 4 and 5. Okay. As Bill mentioned, the general plan does talk a lot about different ways that a developer could work with the county to get the additional density that the general plan anticipates. The general plan generally in this area does anticipate 15,000 square foot averaged lot sizes. What that means is you can have lot sizes as low as 6,000 square feet. You just have to have them average out across the total property to the 15,000 square foot. So you'll have some larger lots, some smaller lots. And so you can see here, this is their phasing plan over here in pink. And in exchange for one of the smart growth principles that Bill mentioned is preservation of meaningful open space. In exchange for allowing them to develop phase 4 and 5 open space as phase 6, they are proposing to dedicate 22 acres to the park district. So right now, the parcel or the area that's in green right now is open space area, as you saw back here. It's a phase 1 through 3 open space. 10 acres of that has been given to the park district. The other 22 acres has not. It is just individually held open space. I think it's termed individually owned agricultural preservation parcel or something like that. It's going to be a hard piece of property to farm. The soils there are not great, and so the opportunity to actually use it in the long term as farm open space probably is not very high. It's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of money to make that usable. So with that in mind, this is what the applicant is asking for. What staff is suggesting is that you go grab phase 1, 2, and 3. You rezone them to the zone that the lot sizes are currently platted at, which is about 15,000 square foot average. And then you rezone the entire open space area that they're proposing to donate to the park district to the O1 zone. This will appropriately reflect what is actually happening in that subdivision. We say it's a 1 acre zone, but we've got very small lot sizes in that subdivision compared to the 1 acre zone. If you rezone the whole thing to the R115, it'll actually show you, it will reflect what it is. Giving the R115 for phases 1 through 5 in here does not change the amount of lots they're going to get out of this. They're not proposing to replat any of that. They're going to keep it as is. And if you're concerned that they ever do want to replat to try and squeeze more out, we can always put that in the development agreement that they can't replat phases 4 and 5. So ultimately, their desire is to continue on with the development pattern that they've already gotten approved. Just put it up in this area in that open space. So this is something that the developer and I talked about a year ago when they were first scoping out the project. They had apparently forgotten about it, and I did too, until I was writing the staff report. And that was after we sent out notices to the neighbors, so I wanted to make sure that we followed through on getting this on the agenda so that the neighbors can come and express their desires or concerns for it. The general plan, this is the future land use map in the general plan, does not show this for the R115. It shows a lot of properties around there for potential R115. That's kind of the yellowish color here. But it shows this as permanently preserved open space. And the reason for that is when we were developing the general plan map, we took the existing permanently preserved open space as previously approved by cluster subdivisions, and we put it on that to say, this is what we agree with, basically. The desire, as you can tell from the park symbol here, is to make that whole space, that whole area a park. And that'd be 30-something acres. Excuse me, that'd be 40-something acres worth of park if you included all of phases 4 and 5 open space in that park. Where they're asking to develop it, probably the best thing to do is to have them apply for a general plan amendment. And I'll give you my recommendations on that front in just a moment. This is the future streets map for the area. You could see a broad white dashed line cutting through the property here. That's intended to be 3900 West. One of the things that we do when we work with developers to push them to implement the general plan, and we do push. It sometimes gets to be a little hot in the negotiation, but we save that from being here at the dais so that you guys don't have to have those uncomfortable conversations. But when we get developers to try and do smart growth principles, one of them is street connectivity. Excuse me. So we want to make sure that we are looking at the future streets and transit potential of the area. One of the things the general plan talks a lot about is, even though we're looking at R115 for a lot of these different areas, or ON, or in some places some village nodes, we don't really know what's going to happen 50 to 100 years from now. But we do know that street connections and, more importantly, pedestrian connections, people connections, will always be important. Now, maybe we'll have flying cars in 100 years from now. I don't know. But if we lay out the street network appropriately, then we've got a good backbone for which other kinds of opportunities can be launched. One of the worst things that we could do is put cul-de-sacs that don't connect anywhere, because those will fill up with houses. And then if any other opportunity comes along in the future, you're tearing down houses to accommodate that. And the market just doesn't usually support tearing down houses, neither does politics. So better to get it on the front end. This is shown as an 80-foot wide right-of-way, this 3900 West proposed street. We do have it going through the Stagecoach development to the north, which was a rezone that you guys did last year at this time. Since that rezone was done, we are working with the applicant and allowing them to take it from an 80-foot to a 66-foot. We looked at to the north, and to the north you got 1400 and then the railroad track, so we know that road's not going further than that. And then to the south, the road comes in here to 2200 south and then hits a T in the road. So we know we're not getting a through street there. So the likelihood of this 2-block segment being an 80-foot collector street is very, very slim. Might as well just call it a residential street and call it good. With that in mind, here are the future parks, rec, and trails map. You could see that area is slated green, lots of green on this map. The intention is to make sure that we've got bike lanes and pedestrian pathways on all streets or adjacent streets that lead to a network of connected park areas. When it comes to park areas, that is an important consideration to make because one of the smart growth objectives that the general plan really leans hard on is we still want a lot of open space. We may be these families who are out here may be slowly moving away from agriculture, but that doesn't mean the community wants to lose its open space. And so it's very important, as documented through the general plan, to make sure that open space is preserved. The general plan does say, first and foremost, open spaces should be set aside for parks, developed and usable parks, both nature parks and completed developed parks. And then it kind of gives a hierarchy after that, from agricultural open space to other kinds of natural open spaces. And so we know that the general plan really pushes for park improvements. On this map, I've got a couple of 2 dotted lines and a solid line. One of the things that we've asked the developer to do, Development to the north, we've got a development agreement with them saying along their portion of 3900, they'll put a 10-foot wide asphalt pathway. And we talked to the developer about continuing that down 3900, but if this does become a park, it's probably going to be more advantageous to the community to guide people into the park area and then out back to 39. We're still going to expect sidewalks to be on this segment here so people can still link through, but let the pathway go that way. When we're looking at pathway connectivity, the general plan, or excuse me, our new street connectivity incentivized subdivision ordinance suggests that your pathway intersections should be no further apart than 400 feet. And that's a lot of pathways. And now a pathway could be a sidewalk, it could be a street adjacent pathway, or it could be a pathway that runs between lots, but it shouldn't be any more than 400 feet apart. If they were to put this line right here, measurement from here to here and there to there isn't 400, so they're well within that. But if they do move it to that outside boundary like staff asked them to, then that does create, I think it's close to 600 feet across. So Planning Commission, you're well within your right to ask for another pathway even coming up and down this way if you wanted to. I'm not recommending it just because I was the one who asked them to move it. They were the ones who were suggesting put it on the roadway. And then east-west. So I recommended that they, so you've got all these lots that are already platted in Winston Park. I recommended that they create an east-west pathway that at least picks people up from this side of their subdivision, starts here, and then goes over here. The developer mentioned, that really just kind of seems like a waste because this is only like 150 feet away. So people could walk around just as easily, and that very well could be true. They did mention, or they hinted, they inferred that if we do have a connection going into the Winston Park subdivision, that would make a great path, and they'd be more than happy to provide that, is what I understood from the communication. So with that in mind, we are still in the process of negotiating the development agreement for the Winston Park development. And so I've asked the developers there to try and work with the new landowner of this lot here to see if we can make some kind of a connection there. So you'll see that in the staff recommendation as well. If they can't get the connection, then maybe that pathway isn't required, but if they can, let's definitely make sure it gets in. It could make, once Winston Park takes this road all the way through, it could make a critical intersect or a critical pathway from 3500 West all the way to the park at some point in the future. Again, when people on that side of 3500 West decide that they want to develop. Okay, looking at the park. So the park district owns about 10 or so acres, a little under 10, I think, acres right in this area here. And they've been looking at a variety of different ways to lay this property out to make sure that it works for the community. The general plan and the park district's master plan suggests that the level of service for parks and open space of the Western Weaver area should be 10 acres per 1,000 residents. Now that is the National Park Service standard. It's a national standard. I was poking around at a few other cities' impact fee, open space and parks impact fee facilities plan, and I can only find one city that is at that standard, and that's Highland City, and they're at 12.1 acres per 1,000, and a lot of that is just natural open space. My understanding is they floated a bond or something to buy that hillside at some point in the past so that no development would happen on it, and that's part of their parks, rec, and open space acreage. So getting this community to 10 acres per 1,000 is going to be a challenge. We know we've got, I can't remember, 8,000 or 9,000 people who live in the entire Western Weaver area. So maybe we've got 5,000 people in the Taylor West Weaver Park District. Maybe, I'm just throwing out numbers. And so we know just with that number in mind, we should have 50 acres of park already for this community. And we don't have any but 10 right here. If the rest of this property, phases 1 through 3 open space, is donated to the park district, that will make a 32 acre park, which gets you a lot closer to your 10 acres per 1,000 for that community. Still not all the way there, but we're still working with developers on that. The developer considers this to be close to a $660,000 valued donation. One of the ways that they may have come up with that number is taking the assessor's office valuation of individually held preservation, agricultural preservation parcels. Which looks to me, from poking around at 4 or 5 different preservation parcels to be right around 30,000 an acre. Now, on the real market, if this property was to be sold in the real market, I don't know if it'd get 30,000 an acre. It's hard to farm. You can't develop on it. And so even farm acreage is going for quite a bit less, between 10 and 15,000 an acre. However, given that the assessor's office is the the office that does the valuation for taxation purposes, that seemed to be the best available information that to use for this. If you were to multiply that by the 22 acres that they are donating to the park district, it's about $660,000. So you can see kind of how that math is done. We know from our work session last month that the actual cost to a community to build parks, especially if we're doing it at 10 acres, as level service 10 acres per thousand, is closer to $7,500 a lot. Now, if you were to take all the lots in phases 4 and 5 and all the new potential lots in phase 6, add them up and multiply them by $7,500 a lot, you're looking at close to $1 million. And so, in my opinion, I think their donation to the park district is a little low, but the park district has said that they're eager to accept this donation. And so I'll let you guys decide how you want to do that. I did reach out to the developer and ask them to maybe consider putting a perimeter pathway around the park. Maybe they could do parking lot improvements. Maybe they could build a bathroom. I mean, there are ways that they can make sure they fulfill the remainder of that if you guys want them to be closer to the $1 million donation range. And we call it a donation because it is a in-kind donation. It's consideration. So through a development agreement, we will consider their requests if they consider our requests. And our request is to donate to the park district, do street connectivity, do great pathway connectivity, and in exchange, you get a higher development ability. Density is a scary thing. In my opinion, after studying this for the better part of 15 years, is that density that is unmitigated is a scary thing. You get quality growth principles as development comes in, you're going to find yourself in a lot better situation 50 years from now than sister cities or sister communities that were in the same situation that West Weaver is in back 30, 40, 50 years ago. One of the impact fee facilities plans that I pulled to get these numbers for parks was Syracuse City. Now they've got apparently glorious parks looking at the numbers that they have. However, the amount of park acreage they have per thousand is only 2.33. And so if you were to take their glorious parks and multiply that to get them 10 acres per thousand, that's where that number, that number gets closer to $10,000 per lot if you were to go to the Syracuse City standard. But you can see a community that was in the shoes that you guys are in 30, 40, 50 years ago, how it's grown, how it's developed out without strong street connections, without strong pathway connections, and without strong open space compensation. So I'm giving you 3 alternatives here. My initial recommendation was for approval until I remembered and realized that this is not shown on the general plan for R115. And so the general plan map would need to be changed in order for that to happen. Doesn't have to be changed, but I do think it's appropriate to change it. And so alternative 1 and alternative 2 here, if you guys were to choose either one of them, it would be to pick up staff's recommendation. Alternative 1 is just pick up staff's recommendation and send it on to the county commission, make whatever tweaks you guys want to that. Alternative 2 is to do the same, but make sure it's very clear to the applicant and to staff that the county commission should not see this in their work session or on a public hearing until the general plan amendment has been vetted to the planning commission first. Alternative 3 is you can either table it to another meeting, which no problem, we can come back next month with a general plan amendment request from the developer if you guys are comfortable with it, or you could just reject the application. Any questions for me?
Questions for Charlie before I start on my rant?
Just clarify, I'm pretty sure I understand, but I want to make sure, Charlie. So on page 3, it shows the phases 4 through 5 in the first table, right? This page is. They're wanting to change that into lots. You said that they're not getting more lots; they're just wanting to shift some of them.
Not getting more lots in phases 1 through 3 and 4 and 5. So I'm just changing state that again. Not getting more lots in phases 1 through 5, but they would be getting 70 something more lots in phase 6.
Fair game.
Okay, don't go far, Charlie. You might have to jump in. But I'm going to start. I'm going to start, then we'll have a public hearing, and then we can. I'm going to rant first.
Mr. Chairman, should I sit for this?
Yeah, you could.
Just to let you know, the applicant does have a representative here who would probably like to address you guys as well.
Okay. First off, I mean, my concern goes back to Charlie's point with the numbers. This is open space, and it's open space that sits today and grows weeds. This ground has no water titled to it. As growing up and some friends that owned this property previously and had the previous dairy farm there, where they're proposing to build, when I look at this whole chunk of ground outside of what was already acquired by the Parks District, very small bits of this ground is any good. If you pull up a Google Earth image and you look kind of back here in the corner, in that southeast corner of this property, there are two ginormous pits. They're about 20 feet deep. I just texted Bobby and asked him how deep them manure pits are. That old dairy barn was a flush system, lots of water, clean the barn, run out to them pits, and they reuse that water. So my first concern is, you know, I really like the idea of going to parks, but I do not think the Parks District's getting the bang for their buck. As I kind of throw some numbers together, so essentially with the 9.5 acres that the Parks District already have, they're going to acquire, if this moves forward, an additional 22.31 acres. Yeah, you can kind of see right down there in the corner. You can still see where those pits sit today. The banks are about 10 feet high, goes about 20 feet in the ground, and I dare anybody to walk on it because you're gonna sink to very far in a substance you don't want to play in. So I mean, that's a huge concern. Also looking at the quality of the ground, and I'm going to back this clear up to the days I sat on this commission when the cluster subdivision was approved, and I was against it due to the fact that I didn't feel they met the ordinance. The old cluster ordinance said let's preserve the good ground, as Mr. Davis mentioned in the previous public hearing, and build on the crap ground. Well, where all these houses sit out there today is what we used to farm, or what used to be farmed in the area. Shouldn't say we, I guess Bobby used to farm, and lots of people ahead of that. So, you know, we're giving, in my opinion, we're giving the Parks District a headache. My first job working for West Haven City over at their country parks in the summer was digging out about 2 feet of that alkali ground so that we could haul topsoil in and actually get grass to grow out there. This conditions on this area is the same, if not worse. We currently, the Parks District owns a nice little chunk of ground, and I hope to see parks continue to grow there, but it's really tough to build a park and grow anything on this ground without water. Parks District has no water. The rest of this ground has no water. The developer is not proposing to put up any water in association with this to build a park. We all live in Utah. We all watch the news and everything else. We know how scarce water is around here. And if you can get it, if you do find it being available, it's very expensive. You know, a rough share of Hooper irrigation is about $25,000. Doing some quick math, and I was never a math scholar, so it's probably wrong, but you'll take the hard surface areas out of this full build out of a park with the 22 and the 9, that 30 acres, you're needing, I would dare say, at a minimum 25 shares of Hooper water. At $25,000, you're talking just the water alone is going to be over $600,000. That if it's not provided by the developer for these additional lots, then the cost goes on the Parks District. And, you know, I've got a passion for the Parks District. I sat on that board for a little while, and I really want to see it succeed in our area. Being a farmer, it's tough to see the area change, but I understand it's evolving. Things are changing. You know, a comment was made before I think I Mr. Andreotti always has a ton of wise wisdom, and farming is changing in our area from what it was in just the short time I've been alive and been around here. So I agree with Charlie's concerns. I get the Parks District's their own entity, and it just pains me to see that they're seeing some free ground or some next to free ground and being able to, get some areas to build us some future parks. But sometimes, something free isn't always great. It might cost a lot more in the long run. And the way I view this, as being the chairman of the weed board for the county, I don't want to see more weeds grown on these these open spaces. All that is an eyesore and a headache. But I do support seeing some more growth and seeing these homes, but with the understanding of that, these 72 lots are building on a piece of ground that has no density, the way it sits today. And if we are going to give density, I think the community as a whole should receive a fair portion of that. And, I sit here and I look at this designed park, and I don't know where that come from. I don't know if that's in the parks master plan or what this could the future of this area in this park could be at one point. That's awesome. I would love to see that in our area. I would love to see, an arena. I would love to see the ball fields, the baseball fields, pickleball. I mean, what better place in our community could we have for gatherings? But also, that's a lot of burden that's going to be coming on our backs as taxpayers. And I know from sitting on the Parks Board, I mean, to build this park, they don't have enough funding just in the taxes they receive to build it. It'd be expensive enough just to maintain a park of this size. And so I want to make sure that the parks are getting their full potential out of these. And, planning staff has done a great job in researching the numbers and looking at neighboring areas to put numbers to this, and, to get to make it work the way they want, to rezone them others, put this 131 lots in there. You're talking just under $1 million, like Charlie said. I disagree that this ground is worth $30,000 an acre. I would dare say, having no density rights, I don't know if you could give me the ground and let me do something with it, because it's just going to be a headache to take care and maintain. But with some additional dollars into that, I think they could make something like this work, but it's going to take a lot of work. So there's my rant. There's my feelings. Anybody else want to chime in before we go to a public hearing?
You're saying they literally gave you the crap ground, gave them the crap ground.
That's what they're proposing.
To summarize, you just feel that the donation to the park needs to be greater to compensate for all of the development they're being allowed to do in this phase 6. Okay. I would agree. Yeah.
One additional concern that was brought up by Charlie that you forgot. That's just the fact that it didn't go through the general plan amendment.
Oh yeah, my rant is I recommend this is tabled. We had this discussion with staff. My first recommendation was to pull it off the agenda, but that got brought to us in our chair vice chair meeting after notices were sent. I don't want to waste you guys' time. I love to see the community come out. I hope you have a lot of good comments and you want to weigh in on this, and so that's why it was left. Let's leave it on the agenda. Let's get public comment. Let's get the feel of the area, and maybe that'll help us, give staff some direction and hopefully the applicant to go back and relook at this a little bit. So that's why it's left on the agenda. Yes, my recommendation, I'm only one vote and I can't even make the motion, but it's going to be to table this until they do it the right way. There is a process, and not making the general plan amendment to the general plan map first. This in my eyes is a no-go, no move, but if we reject it, then we don't see it again. It goes to the county commission and then they get to do what they want with it. And I would rather have another stab at it. So there's my 2 cents on that. Anything else?
So what are you suggesting, Brenda, the developer find water?
Water is going to be a big part of it for sure. And they can bring water to the table. I think that's something that the parks really needs to look at. And I mean, at the end of the day, we don't make decisions for the parks, but my suggestions is I would love to see some water come to it. And if they can't find the water,
The adage is that
water flows to money. So, I tend to agree here that there's not enough of a donation being made here. Compensate for the density that's going to be given up for this. I agree with that. Ready for a public hearing?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move to public hearing.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes. Okay, now we're in a public hearing for this item. Now's the time on this one, sir. If you'd like to come up and give us your feelings, please.
And don't feel bad. We're still trying to figure out what to do too.
I learn every day.
I want to just kind of get Charlie over here to talk for me because he's talking me into getting a park. But yeah,
Will you just start with your name and address for us, just for the record?
Yeah,
thank you.
John Gonzalez, and my address is 2200 or 2002 South, 4300 West, right in front of Taylor High School. Which I moved to Taylor to have peace and quiet and big lots and everything, but now that's all gone. It seems like after I purchased my lot, bam, high school in front of the house and development behind me. So I think you're Charlie, you're the one that's in the car, right? I think I left you a message. But if it does get approved, my plan is to get out of there. But I would like to subdivide my acre and a half before I leave. So if everybody's getting a piece of the pie, I might as well get in there. And I don't know if you're not, but anyways, that's my feeling. I like parks. Park would be great. The school would be great, but it's too much for us. We like our acre and a half, but now everything. It seems like just me and my few neighbors are the only ones left, and they're also interested in subdividing so they can get out. So maybe we speak to the developer. Anyways, that's it. Not much. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Anyone? I was gonna say we got a house full. Let's hear some comments.
I got a couple of comments. My name's Nathan Davis. I've memorized my address now, 3448 South, 5100 West.
The truck knows how to drive home. That's all that matters, right?
And the dog knows the way home. So, hey, a couple of things on your Taylor item. The reason people love Taylor, like the gentleman that just spoke, and why they're moving here is because of our space. And as a planning commission, that's being diminished by property owners' rights, and developers. And it's going to change the outlook. And you even have a paragraph in your packet that says, I don't even know how to say this word. There's too many consonants together. It almost sounds like Russian, like Stareshna or something. But it says, from an instinctive perspective, current neighbors who have grown accustomed to the quiet, rural nature of the immediate area, like the gentleman that just spoke, may find an increase in development intensity and unpleasant and contrary to the current reasons they reside in the area. Even though residents in the area do not own a property right, sorry, I put the pause in the wrong place. Even though residents in the area do not own a property right that ensures their neighbor's property will not change, they may find dismay in the perception that changes beyond their control could upend their desired future for the area. This could lead to their eventual self-determined displacement from the neighborhood, which then changes the subdivision, which changes the area. As we put all these people in this area, it's totally different. It is totally different space and an item. And I'd like you to consider those additional lots that you give some space for everybody. There was a comment by Mr. I can't even say your name. Andriotti. You must be out of Italy and named or related to the Giordano's, because all these Italian names in Western Weber County. Oh, sorry. And the Faveros. Sorry, Andrew. But Anybody out here would rather pick 1 acre lots with some weeds than 79 houses. They would anytime, because you multiply that by whatever number you want to do math with, and it gets pretty hazy. And then on your parks, as you guys do these parks things, I worked for North Ogden City. Their biggest park is the Barker Park. It's 32 acres. They have money to do things, but can't get them done. Don't make a park over 10 acres. Split it up, do something with it, but it does it. And it's good ground. Heck, Mr. Barker is still farming it to this day. But it's good ground. It has water, and they still can't get the public to make a decision on it because it's so big. And so 10 acres maximum. Make them split it up, do some land trades for parks in other areas of the county. Say, hey, we love that you want to donate 40 acres, but we need a park here, 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 and here at 10 acres apiece. We need water, and we need $2.5 million a park just to get started. And that doesn't include the expensive labor to maintain them. You know, you think farms are on the end, are going out? Look at parks. They're not used. We put in hundreds. The playground set for this little playground at Lowman View Park cost $190,000 for a slide and a couple of things. Guess how many kids are going to use that? The same 6 kids that live next to it. So parks are almost as big as a waste as they're dwindling. If you want to put some electronic center or some kind of thing in a park, you might get some people to show up, right? But anyway, those are my comments. Less than 3 minutes, I hope.
Thanks, Nate.
My name is Dave Whitaker. I reside at 3695 West Glenna Way in Taylor. I own the 27-acre parcel that fits in the triangle between the canal and the phase 6 and the phase 1 through 3 lots. And to be honest with you, I'm not here to cause much trouble. Nate and I have known each other a long time, and I wished I could come as prepared as Nate does to these things. But the only thing I've ever would probably disagree with Nate is that sometimes I don't mind seeing 1/3 of an acre instead of the weeds, but not always. But the couple of things that I'm concerned with is just what has been mentioned by the chair, Mr. Edwards. That ground's not going to be good for anything. We could put some more houses on it and then mess things up. But I guess my biggest concern through always has been what happened with Winston Park. I kind of felt like we were got the old bait and switch trick pulled on us there. I was told that it would be, I don't mind the 1/3 acre lots, but no more density than what would be equivalent to a 1 acre zoning. And then all of a sudden, boom, it looks like it's going to happen. I don't think it's happened yet, and I could be wrong. But it's about as bad a ground as this ground, and none of it's really farmable. I don't know what you do with it, but to Nate's point, I came from Kaysville, and they built so many houses on gorgeous 5-foot deep topsoil. I came out here, and I've only spent 4 years trying to put enough manure on that ground to get it to grow stuff. And yeah, and I'm on the good side. I'm the 4-foot higher spot.
We were real farmers over here in western Weber County.
Well, I've been trying to learn. I've been at it 64 years. I've almost figured it out, but I'm not going to say I'm that good yet. I know you guys are better than me. But speaking of farming, if this goes through, lots 1 through 3, I got a fence down there that I own to the midpoint of that road, I believe. I'm really not interested in sharing that road with anybody. So I'm not sure how those lots, it'll be along the east side of that property, would turn out. If you guys do push it through and I end up having to do something, or that land does somehow maybe exercise eminent domain or whatever, I need fences moved. I need tailwater ditches replaced. I need ways to take care of my tailwater and runoff. And actually, Chad Meyerhofer he took good care of me when they did the stuff to the north of us, even though they took away all of our tailwater ditches and ways to get rid of it all. He's been very helpful. I'd like to get my money from the Winston Park folks at some point for all the pipe I laid, so that I could capture it and not run it onto their lots. But I'll take that up with Wade on that deal there. Other than that, tailwater issues, fencing issues, and then the fence that's been there forever, I believe, once they came out and surveyed not long ago, is setting about 10 feet onto what they believe is their property. I'll have an issue with that as well. I would imagine that's probably civil. You folks can't help me with that, but I will have a fight there as well. But if you're going to designate open spaces, particularly those that are not something we could make a park on, as in this case, and as in the case that now Wade came back at Winston Park and wants to do, don't bait and switch us. Don't turn around and put a whole bunch more third acre R115 lots in there. And I, like everybody else, I moved out here to get away from it. Every time I had to get across Main Street in Kaysville with something longer than a baler, it was scary. And so don't make Taylor be that way is what I would ask of you all. Thanks for your time.
Hello, Greg Bell, 4023 West, 2100 South Taylor. So I got a lot to say on this one too. You guys kind of figured that, I'm sure. Mr. Whitaker's not wrong. This is the same thing, the same old bait and switch. Here we are doing the same thing all over again. And I'll have to say, you get what you ask for. This is a result of poor planning from the very beginning. This proposal should have been rejected because of prime farm ground. Your own ordinance required these lots to be somewhere else. This prime farm ground should have been somewhere else, and you passed it anyway. And the county commission, and we were told over and over and over again that you can make this land farmable. We had an expert farmer and came and testified that he can turn any ground into farmable property. And the developer said, yeah, we got an agreement with this farmer and convinced the commission of it, so they passed it. Why aren't we holding that developer accountable? If he can turn that into farmable land, then turn it into farmable land and give it back to the damn park district like they were supposed to do. Instead, we're making more concessions. So here's the rest of it that I'm upset about. R115 requires 15,000 square foot lots. I don't know, call me an idiot, but for 24.3 acres at 40,000 square foot per lot, 72 lots, that averages to 13,500 square feet. Remove roads from it, you're down below 11,000 square foot per lot. So I don't even know how R115 even applies to this. And then if you're going to take what has already been approved and you're going to recategorize it as a R115, you still don't meet that requirement in phase 4 and 5. And yet somehow we're going to give that concession to the developer. I don't understand that either. Then your general plan requires all that land to remain open space because it's in agricultural preservation. So we're going to take it out, all in the name of saying it's impossible to reach this what was it, 10,000 or 10 acres per 1,000 residents. Well, it sure makes it a lot harder when you take open space out of the general plan and turn it into developable lots. So of course you're never going to get to there, but you should at least allow the parks districts a chance. It seems like this proposal would go a lot better if you just keep phases 1 through 5 as terrible as they are and give the rest of that to the park district. I have some other things. Street connectivity. Again, I don't know why you keep bringing that up. None of this in this development is connected, and nothing will connect you between 1800 unless you force Mr. Whitaker to give up his property. It's the only way you can connect 1800 to 2200. The rest of it is going to force it right down, or sorry, 2200. Otherwise, you're going to force all that traffic down 2100 with the substandard roads, no curb, gutter, or sidewalk, and you're going to force all that traffic down that same road. Again, we had the same discussion 2 years ago, and now I find out that even of last year, you're already in negotiations to develop the same open space. So it was always in the plan of the developer to maintain this open space long enough till he could come and apply for a rezone. So you grant all of this density on a A1 zone, grant all this density simply to come back and rezone it so that we can, get concessions to a developer to build more lots. It just seems like we're trying to tear down a community simply so we can get rooftops, and it kills a community. You've already heard some of that. Yeah, 3900 West is not going to be able to go through. The only way that that's connected is tearing down Mr. Whitaker's property, ripping apart his fence, and removing his land. You're eliminating the 50% open space by categorizing already plotted lands to a different rezone. I don't know if there's a precedence for that, but I've never seen it. Seems odd that we're already at developable lots, we're recategorizing those zones simply to squeeze in some more homes. But everywhere I look on this one, it just seems like we're giving the developer more concessions at a violation of the general plan of what the community wants. So I say I'd like to see at least a map showing me how we meet the R115. I didn't see that in any of the presentations we saw. From my math, it doesn't seem like we're anywhere close to it. And I'd like to see what the plan is for water. I mean, honestly, the reason why there's not a park there right now is because no water was given. The reason why there's not a farm there right now is because no water was given. So that was never part of the plan. There was an agricultural preservation plan that was obviously never met. Lots of these things in this subdivision were lies. There wasn't ever supposed to be basements put in. There's tons of basements over there already. There's not supposed to have been any kind of HOA. Now there's HOAs in place. So for what? For a park, open space that they don't even get to have. So I think we need to stop lying to the residents who end up buying these properties and leading them down a road that they end up with water in their basements perpetually forever and an HOA fee that pays for nothing. So that's my rant. Thanks for your time.
Any other comments on this item?
My name is Nathan Vandenberg. I live at 3934 West, 2025 South, which makes me a bit of a hypocrite because I'm in phase one. We were one of the first homes to move into the neighborhood, and I've since learned since moving in that it probably wasn't a good idea for us to really be looking in that area, but we are where we are now. I've heard that land over there that I'm not sure if you're aware where my home is, but the retention pond is right on the back of my property. My family relocated from Maricopa County, Arizona, back in 2021, which Maricopa County, I'm sure you're aware, is a textbook example of poor community planning. And we wanted a beautiful view of Ben Lomond. I grew up in this area and I love that view. And to think that we're going to have homes in the way there is really disheartening. I've heard multiple times that the land over there is crap and full of weeds and that nobody wants to make a home there. There are plenty of homes there. As my family and I were getting ready to come over here tonight, I looked out back there and sitting on top of an old fence post was this beautiful red-tailed hawk. We've got a family of geese that make a nest back in that retention pond in our area there. A couple weeks ago, my wife and I were serenaded to sleep by a pack of coyotes, their yips and their howls. We've seen fox out there. I had the very rare opportunity to see an osprey sitting out there not too long ago. We've had pelicans. We've had all sorts of species of birds and everything. The frogs this time of year, they are just, it's a beautiful area. And I would invite any of you to please come to my home one evening and just sit on my porch with me and watch nature happen. Every morning we wake up and we love to see the mist over that land. And so my request is, it's already a home. It's a home to thousands of residents. Let's be good stewards of the land and leave it alone. Somebody already lives there. If it's crap land with weeds, then let the residents that live there to stay there. We lived close to Gilbert, Arizona, and they have a wonderful riparian preserve down there that the circumference of it has a nice walking path that my family would visit quite frequently. And we got to see all the species of wildlife that live there. I'd love to see something like that where we can just leave the land alone and make sure that we are good stewards of the land that we live in. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Lance Peterson. I reside in Taylor at 3881 West, 2550 South. I'm the treasurer of the Taylor West Weaver Park District. And, you know, I know we've gone back and forth a lot about the donations that the developers making to us. And I know that as far as this rezone goes, we're fine with it. And I know that we do have some other elements that we do need to continue to negotiate with the developer in partnership with Charlie, the staff, and yourselves to make sure that when it comes time for the development agreement, we'll ensure that there are donations there commensurate enough to make you all feel comfortable with the community. And just so that the community knows, we've planned, I don't see the map up there, but the map that has been shown up there is not the plan. It's kind of scawampus. We are planning on 2 large pavilions. We received a grant from RAMP just this past month. Last week. I handed in the paperwork today to build a pavilion, one on the north. And we have enough money to build a parking lot there. That is out for bid right now. And so we hope this spring to begin construction of the north parking lot off of 1800 and a pavilion on the north just off 1800. And then maybe next year or the year after, we'll build one on the south. I'm estimating this is going to be probably a 6, maybe 8, 10-year kind of build out. Our plan right now is to have a real nice riding arena with a pole barn, a 3-field ballpark there, 2 large pavilions, as I said, some soccer fields, basketball, pickleball, a splash pad, and also an outdoor amphitheater with a real nice hill that's really nicely landscaped that could also in the wintertime serve as a little tubing hill. Also, there's stubbing in. It didn't show it on that map there in your packet, but there will be a stub in from their road for a parking lot on me. So we would end up with 3 parking lots there. So that's kind of our vision for that park is on the build out. It'll take a few years. But I just wanted to make sure all the residents here know that we're trying our best. We're all volunteers, and we're all learning, building parks, just like you are, just like Charlie is. We've never been in the park building business before, but we're real excited to try to take this ground and do what we have to turn a lemon into lemonade. So thank you all.
Hi, my name is Jamie Vandenberg. I live at 3934 West 2025 South. Sorry, I'm still learning my address too. And my husband just spoke about the birds, Vandenberg, about the wildlife that we have behind our home. And I'm not as eloquent of a speaker as he is, but I wanted to get up. I've heard a couple comments about thinking about the land 100 years from now, 50 years, 100 years from now. I've also heard people talk about the Dark Skies Initiative, and I wanted to point out that Dark Skies Initiative is not just for us to see the sky at night. It's also for the migration of birds. And if we destroy homes for birds, we're not going to have birds to worry about for the Dark Sky Initiative. So what's the point for that? It is important for us to be good stewards of our land. I also wanted to talk a little bit about parks. I brought my little 7-year-old today, and I can't tell you how many times he's cried when it snowed or rained over the last few weeks because he is so ready to go to a park. He's ready to stretch his legs. He's ready to run around. Parks are not dying for a lot of children. I have been to Lowman View Park several times, and I haven't even lived close to Lowman View Park. My children love Lowman View Park. They love all parks. I even have an almost 12-year-old who loves going to parks. It is important for us to preserve parks and to make space for our children to play, Because even if electronics are a big deal for children, there are a lot of children that need to get out. It's part of being healthy, having a healthy childhood, using your imagination, and we need to encourage that. If we get rid of our parks, what's to keep them from being on their electronics? That's what they're going to do. So we need to keep parks. And when we lived in Arizona, my children loved observing the nature at the riparian preserve. They loved it. And I know that there'd be a lot of children that would love observing the nature behind our home. When we get up in the morning or even throughout the day, it is loud. I cannot tell you the noise that we hear from birds, from frogs. There's so much back there. And I would echo my husband in saying, please come to our home. We would love for you to sit on the porch and listen to the noises that we can hear from our backyard. Thank you.
Any other comments? Last chance. Okay, I'll accept the motion to close public hearing on this item.
Motion.
A motion.
Second.
Motion, a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we're out of public hearing. So, I mean, I really appreciate the comments. My first little throw out, and I mean, I appreciate what the Parks District does. Don't take my comments about, you know, wanting more for them as a negativity towards what the Parks District does. But I reckon just want to throw a plug out for them. Get involved with them. I mean, it is a growing, it's something new out here. What's the Parks District been around as a special service district? 6 years now, Lance, I think, or so. I was a part of it when it first began, and so I want to make sure they're getting the most bang for their buck, and what we can do on this side is the planning level to help that. That's where a lot of those comments come from. But get involved with them. I know they're doing some great fun activities. They meet once a month, just like we do. They're a governing body. They have more power than we do because they're their own district. But go to their meetings, get involved, speak up, you know, what you want to see in these parks. That's my plug for the parks. Mr. Bell's comments on the density really struck me a little bit, so I wanted to go back and do some math. And like I said, I'm not a mathematician. But and Charlie helped me with this if I'm wrong, when I take the acreages from phases 3 and 4 existing, if they replat those with the additional new phase 6, if it moves forward, that's 45.9 acres, right?
Just wanted to say I've got a lot of respect and admiration for Mr. Bell, especially since his time on the Planning Commission, and I am grateful to see that he's spending his time in more wise places than in the planning arena. I think he missed the lot averaging and the street connectivity connected incentivization that was adopted last year. That's how this pencils out. So,
well, even outside of that, it still pencils in my eyes if I'm doing my math right? Between all those, you got 45.9 acres, right?
Yeah, if you take lots, or if you take phases 1 through 6 and you take the acreage, take the acreage,
which
divided
is
by 15,000 square feet.
1,999,404 square feet.
Yep, divide
that by 15,000.
You get 300 something lots out of that.
333.29.
And the applicant, after these 70, will be doing 200 and I can't remember 40 or something like
200 or 131
total if you're counting phases 1 through 6.
Based on your chart, unless I'm reading your chart wrong, phase 4. So if you take phase 4 proposed lots is 28, phase 5 proposed lots is 31, phase 6 proposed lots is 72. My math comes out to 131.
Chart on table 2.
Under proposed lots proposed, I'm reading 131 lots. I'm not a mathematician.
Well,
I didn't take my shoes off to count. I didn't want to bury you guys with the smell.
You know, I may have taken too many shoes off to count.
The doctor has spoken.
Well, okay, less than 204, 214, what I have listed here. I apologize for that typo. Excel did me wrong.
I didn't count the first 3 phases, so I wasn't worried about those. I was just more concerned with these others.
Oh, I see. On table 1. Yep. I got you.
I'm just looking at table 2, phase 4, 5, and 6.
Gotcha.
That's what we're discussing here. I didn't even bring the already built out phases into play.
Gotcha.
So that's where, I mean, the 133 lots, then we take out roads and that type of stuff. You're probably getting close to that.
Yeah, so one of the things with the street connectivity incentivized is to do everything we can to get developers to put the streets where we want them to go. And one of the reasons why a developer might not put streets where we want them to go is because we want them to build a lot of street connections. It's important for a community to be connected. And so there's very little motivation for a developer to propose that amount of streets. And so one of the ways that we're trying to incentivize that is to not remove the area in those streets from their calculations. So, and that was adopted into code a year ago.
No, I appreciate it, Charlie. I'm going to talk a little bit about 3900 West because I've been scratching my head on that one as well. And I mean, I totally agree with Mr. Whitaker. I mean, I don't want to see it come in and affect what he's got, but they've got a chunk of land there. There's 3.5 acres that the developer still owns along there. I think that connection is a huge benefit to the area, even if they don't build homes along it. To pull that back up, Charlie, it's going to kind of be a little screwy, I guess, because it was originally they were going to build lots along there and build a half section of a road. And once the full road comes, but like Mr. Whitaker says, he's here to stay for a while and we don't want to impact him. And I don't want to see an impact on him. So why can't, as part of this request along here, why can't we make them connect 3900 West from one end to the other? They own the same grounds owned by the same person through that area.
Guide your attention to staff recommendation.
Charlie called it out and I missed it.
The applicant's portion of 5900 West should be installed to 2200 South as part of this development and development agreement. Now, it's not included in the area that they are requesting a rezone to, but I think as part of the development agreement, we don't give them the development if they can't make that connection.
But one change to that is I want to see them build the full section. I don't want to see a half road built that runs to the fence that's going to impact,
we could do that. We'll probably need to adjust our expectations as you get right to that intersection, because it looks like based on property lines that Mr. Whitaker probably owns to the center of the existing 39, but we might be able to kind of taper down so that that intersection
I would hope
can
some,
configure correctly.
some work could be adjusted as it comes across the canal there. I don't know how much that little corner is being used, and I don't want to speak for the landowner, but hopefully something right there to get the road pushed off their property and to where we have a full connection, because as Mr. I believe Gonzalez, sorry if I slaughter names, but that high school is making a big impact on this area. And one thing I found from sitting on this commission is the school district's not very fun to work with. They're going to come in and they tell us what they're going to do. There's nothing else about it. No ifs, ands, or buts. We ask, we try and be partners, but they're not very fun to work with. And, I look at all the connections that this high school is going to make, and in my day-to-day job life of working with the state and with UDOT, I've been trying to tell the folks there that, we've got a big problem at 2200 and 4700 when this high school comes about. They're spending a lot of money at Country Corner right now to make that intersection safer, but half the problem at Country Corner goes away as soon as this high school opens. And so I have a huge concern with what happens to 2200 through this area. And as next year, I think we're all going to see that. And I live not too far away from this, but the impacts are going to be noticed through this whole area. So I would love to see another connection, especially a connection from all the way through. And I know they built one just to the west here. And what's that, phase 2 ties it in? No, 2 will tie. When 4 and 5 go in, there'll be a connection on that end. Through the west part there. But I agree with Mr. Bell's comments. We need to act on that. And in my rant earlier, the developer's getting a lot of, almost to the point of concessions, like Mr. Bell stated. We need to get something back out of it. And I think that's in my opinion, one thing I would really strive that we recommend as a planning commission is make them tie that road together and build. It's not 80 no more, correct? We're just asking 66?
Just 66 on this one. And observation to make, I'd love to chat with Mr. Whitaker on the side. I think we can very well ask the developer to install the entire street cross-section, curb, gutter, and sidewalk on both sides of the street if we wanted to, which would mean that Mr. Whitaker, when he chooses to develop, or whoever buys the property from him in the future, will not have the expense of improving that road. I think that's a well worth exploring with Mr. Whitaker if he's willing to do so, increase the value of his property, hopefully
Well, and,
without affecting his taxes.
You know, I'm looking at it from, you know, I know this is subdivision phases. The more we get into that, but if they don't tie all this together, they're stuck at 30 lots because they've only got one access coming out of there for now.
Correct.
But sorry, I gotta look back at my notes to look.
I suspect there's a reason why the lots abutting 3900 West in the original approval have not been platted yet, and that's because 3900 is probably going to be a challenge for them. I think they probably figured that out. So much so that it might be worth it for them in the future to never install that portion and just let it go. And that's why I'm suggesting that's why I'm suggesting the connection all the way through. And if you want to do a full width instead of the half width, county ordinance says they could do a half width. Half width under county ordinance means that they have to do at least 24 feet of asphalt. And so if they're doing half width on their side, everything's going to be adjusted a little bit further on their side to fit the 24 feet of asphalt, the curb gutter sidewalk, the park strip, and the 1 foot space between that and the lots. So a lot of it will fall more on their property, but if you're asking for the full thing, we can certainly get the full thing.
We can get rid of that stupid hammerhead too. Make them tie that together.
Oh, make a connection to the street. Yes.
Yeah, that hammerhead's made me mad ever since. There was a lot of things in this first phase or this first approval when
I'll check on ownership.
Several of us were here.
I'll check ownership of those lots, and if we can get it, I'll talk to them. No, this one.
1800 to all the way to 2200 at 3900 West.
And that's staff recommendation 3A. Yeah. I just wrote on the entire right of way.
Hey, Charlie, just curious, if Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker decide to stay there and not sell their property, what protects their property if that road goes in? Does the developer have to put up a fence or anything like that?
There's a whole host of things that we could do to help the Whitakers not be impacted by this. Obviously, if there's construction going in right there on the property line, there might be some impact. So we'll want to be careful and work with him and have the developer work with him on how that works. If he really doesn't want to have his side of the road improved by the developer, we can make sure we do everything we can to avoid those fences and those ditches. My guess is long-term, best case scenario for the community, again, 50 years down the road, is to have everything tied together, redo the fence, the ditch, the curb gutter, sidewalk, all that, have it all installed to the full spec and have it train in the way that landowner, farmer, it works for them as well as in the way that works for the community.
As long as it happens, because I'm really concerned to hear that there was problems with Winston Park, because I know we had a lot of discussion, especially on that south side for tailwater ditches. I don't know, Commissioner Farrow and Andrade, you remember them discussions we had. So it's kind of frustrating to hear now that it's at a point of building and that there was issues with that, because I remember several discussions within the Planning Commission to try and help mitigate that tailwater issue through that area. So I'd like to talk to you more offline a little bit, and just curious on that. I could rant for longer, but I think I'm done.
I think, Brent, I think that's a good point, is that we have to be extremely diligent to stop it from happening right now rather than waiting and finding out that it didn't happen, right?
Yeah, that's the frustrating part, because we had a lot of good discussion about that and thought it was addressed, and to hear it didn't happen, I'd like to know more of why and see if we can try another stab at it to get it to be prevented.
Well, and it's good for me to hear, because sometimes it seems like we're being kind of harsh with some of these developers, but knowing that that's what's happening, there's a good purpose for it. So,
I mean, one more thing, sorry. We can ask them in a minute. The whole bait and switch thing, I mean, I don't think necessarily that's a bait and switch. I feel that, you know, what the community gains from a fully developed park, just in my opinion, like I said, I'm one voice, and I'll go back to, I made the comment earlier and Mr. Bell brought it up again. The bait and switch on this property happened when this was originally approved, in my opinion, through what was stated on the good farm ground. The analysis was actually done on the ground. Someday I'll look through the big old stack of papers I got of this, and it's actually in a staff report showing where the good ground and the bad ground was. Because, like was stated, where was farmed is where all these houses sit. The dairy barn was put in the place it was because it wasn't really farmable ground. The pasture they're proposing to build on, that's probably the best ground of it all. But it is quite a bit lower than what's to the west and the rest of the park there. So it concerns me that the public feels that this is a bait and switch, but I hope that they view it from a point of how it becomes better. And I agree, some open and some nature's great in there, but not a lot of nature, lives in the wildlife. I mean, to hear there's coyotes and foxes, I used to have quite a pack that lived behind my house before Green Farms moved in, and now the coyotes are pushed out, and as more houses come in the area, we're going to see fewer and fewer of them, which could be a good thing if you got chickens or small dogs or stuff like that, because that's what they prey on. And then it becomes a problem when one of the small dogs or a cat or a chicken gets ate, and then we don't like the coyotes no more. But I don't know. I got to think a little bit more on this one, even outside of them not following the right procedure on how this moves forward. But
Mr. Chairman, did you want to hear from the applicant?
Are they going to come
comment first, Chair?
Go ahead, Mr. McCormick.
I don't think I was here for the improvement of Taylor Landing. But if the open space was given for a higher density and they got it, and is there anybody here that lives in Taylor Landing? And they've been sold a bill of goods. And in my opinion, it'd be really hard for me in good faith to vote for this because they promise these people open space, and some people like weeds. I don't mind it personally. I don't see how I could ever vote for it.
Well, and I'll even take it one step back to where Gonzalez, right? Mr. Gonzalez lives. I come on the planning commission just after Sunset Equestrian was approved in this area. So we look over here at the high school and where Mr. Gonzalez's property is. We see these small little lots, but then Charlie pulled it up for me. Thank you. Then we see these large acres behind them. And that was all part of a master plan community here called Sunset Equestrian. Well, the first phase went in and it went defunct. And so now we're trying to, Taylor Landings was the next try and stab at this area. But just to like his point, we've got these large lots back in here. And, some folks like it, but now they're getting encroached on. They thought that there were supposed to be horse trails through here. The HOA was supposed to have an arena and there was a lot of cool things in Sunset Equestrian when it was first proposed, but that's where that, I would call that kind of almost a bait and switch, because they come in and propose all these great things and building all this immaculate stuff, and it's going to look really cool and really great. First phase goes in, market crashes, and now we're looking at what we look at today, and that's the unfortunate part of this. But I agree with your comments. It's very hard to see them come in and try and build on what was dedicated open space. But that's where if there's a greater benefit that comes from it, it might could sway me, but it still is hard for me. I agree with you 100%. And that goes back to my earlier rant that definitely what they're proposing today, in my opinion, is nowhere close to what should be granted. I'm not in the real estate and I don't know that world, and I get there's development costs, and you know well of what it costs to put the infrastructure in on this stuff, but still, these lots, easy math, $150,000. I don't know what the development cost side of that is, but this is an additional, what's that, $7+ million, close to $10 million, I guess. They would have
These
never
lots are
had
too
before.
easy now.
Yeah, so we're talking, lots and lots of money that on a piece of ground that the way this was originally done that should have never been there. So Go ahead.
Speaking to the farmability of this area, the problem that we ran into was what you alluded to in the fact that part of this had already been developed. And so working with what was left, it was how do we get the water where we need it without flooding people out, without having, first of all, an irrigation malfunction on the head end, and then what do we do with the tailwater on the back end? So, there was a whole lot of consideration, but the best part as far as the soil is concerned was pretty much already under homes when this came back to us. So from the perspective of how did we get to where we are now? Well, as we're going through this history of this development, we're kind of picking out how it happened. And it necessarily wasn't any one time period that dictated what happened here. It's all of them combined. And all we can really do is do what the guy with the broom does at the end of the horse parade. You know what he's doing? And that's what we have left to work with here. And so agreed, the concessions made by the developer to get this closed off, as far as I'm concerned as well, density has to be much, much greater than what they've proposed here, or it doesn't go forward. But we can't pick any one situation that created this mess. And I want everybody to know that there's a lot of history behind this development that goes back, Commissioner Andriotti, I'm going to say more than 15 years ago, to the original proposal that was a huge cookie cut of most of this whole block development plan that didn't make it.
True.
And
about quarter-acre lots.
Yeah. And so through the attrition of this whole property here, it has been very challenging to make right decisions and make people happy. And it's unfortunate that, maybe as was mentioned, that people feel like they were baited and switched. You got to remember that through those years, through that much time period, things are changing. The dynamics of the community are changing. The property demands are changing, and the zoning is changing. So all I can give to you from that perspective is just take into consideration that there's a lot more history here than what we're dealing with today.
Anything else?
So I had the same feelings as Commissioner Uncle Jed. I feel when we have these situations, we've had some that have come through, and there's been no effect to the residents around it. They don't care. They're happy with it being developed rather than being left open space, and they prefer it that way. I think that's where we should take our opinions. If they're the ones that are preferring it, then yeah, we let it go through. If it's bothering the residents that we're sold that on the premise that that's going to be open space and that's why they're there, then it should stay that way. That's my thoughts.
Lots of good comments. Want the applicant to come up? I don't have any questions for him. Well, I guess we need to give the applicant their opportunity to address. Does the applicant want to come up and speak on any of it? There's no questions then for the applicant. Okay, I'll accept a motion on this item.
Mr. Chairman, can I request if there's a general consensus that the answer might be no, there's probably no reason to draw it out for the developer in a tabling and have them come back. But if that's not the general consensus, I don't want to influence you guys one way or the other. Just getting the sense.
So maybe a short discussion.
Yeah.
I think tabling would be appropriate, but it would, for me, it would have to have a caveat that they need to seriously address the parks donation and come back with something commensurate with.
I guess I think that's a great point, and I agree 100%. We don't need to string this along, but I would, if they're open to the discussion on this. I mean, I don't know how the rest of the commission feels, but if some of these things can be addressed, like connecting the road and a higher donation and stuff like that, would it change the opinion from a no to a maybe?
I don't want to lose the fact that if we deny it here, that it goes straight to the commission. We don't get eyes on it again. We don't get to have this forum again. That's my 2 cents worth. If the developer's interested in maybe making some concessions, we're not here to say that just because they come back, they're going to get approval from us.
Right.
But I really hesitate to deny this and let it go forward with the commission.
That's my concern as well. If we could come to a common ground, would it change the opinion a little bit, at least to hear it one more time? I know Charlie and staff's taking a bunch of notes from our discussion, and obviously the applicant can take our discussion back to their team as well. Would it change anything? And that's the downfall of a denial. We're done. It's off our plate, and it goes to the commission.
I agree with that. I have a question that I think kind of ties to that. Maybe it's for Director Grover. If it's tabled because they haven't, in our opinion, gone through the correct process of amending the general plan, the general plan is a public hearing as well, right? The general plan amendment?
That is correct.
Okay. That, in my opinion, should be the process still. They go through that and then give the citizens another opportunity and to come and speak on the amendment first.
They can speak on the amendment, and then maybe whatever changes might be brought to the table in between now and the amendment time.
Yeah.
So
right.
Along with it. Okay. Sounds like you got a motion.
Okay. Yeah, I can make it unless Sarah had some extra stuff to add to it. But,
I always got crazy stuff, but I think if we're tabling it,
There's
I
not a lot
think
to it.
just basically it seems like we need to meet with planning commission to determine a more commensurate parks donation.
You want me to use fancy words now?
You are the
You can
educated
use
one.
whatever. Yeah, you're the doctor. What's going on?
It's all ploy. It's all ploy. I'm not using her words, but I'll.
Yeah, I think parks donation. And
It could be
anything.
simple. Table it based on they didn't follow. They need to come back with a general plan.
That was going to be my
staff.
motion.
Staff
And then
can
we
put
can
the
work
rest
through
of it
that
too.
through the part, right? With
Well, I guess when it comes to the general plan amendment, there's no point in him getting a general plan amendment unless this is moving forward. So I would bring them both back at the same time.
Oh, it will.
And so that's, bring them both back. But
that's part of the
two
process anyways, right?
Yeah, so I would say the general plan amendment and then the rezone would need to have.
Just say it under there as your motion.
On the rezone.
Comment down here. At this
Yes, sir.
end,
Yes.
Chair. So what we're saying is if they come back with a plan that is so good that all the people in the subdivision are happy, we'll pass.
That's kind of my thoughts on it.
So if there's like a gigantic park with the bulk of it being open and them paying the almost all of the money to make it happen.
If it satisfies
I
the
honestly
community,
can't
then
see
why would we deny it?
anybody that has open space behind them ever agreeing to let it be developed.
Well, right now,
And that's what they bought. And I don't think we have the right to change that.
well,
That might be a civil suit.
Yeah, this one is different than some of our others, and what we're developing is mostly, we're taking open space and it's being a different type of open space because it is a park. So we aren't taking
Some of it.
some of it, but most of it, I mean, phase 6,
Is
it
phase,
doesn't,
see, I'm not clear on that. So phase 6 was already planned?
No, phase 6 is open space, and
but I don't think it abuts anyone who was promised open
just
space.
the Whitakers.
But the Whitakers weren't promised open space. They weren't part of the subdivision that
that's
was
true.
promised open space,
That's a little different.
unfortunately.
They may have purchased their property and no, that's how it was approved.
But Mr. Gonzalez purchased his property, and they built a dang high school across the street.
Yeah, so that's why I'm a little bit more open to this, is that it's open space. It's still a use of open space. It's a park,
I
so.
think that can be saved for the next discussion. It should still be tabled and gone through the correct process.
Okay, is that a motion?
So I'd like to make a motion that we table this item. Number, sorry. For item number ZMA 2024-03, the public hearing on Taylor Landing Rezone. Because of the lack of going through the proper process of amending the general plan.
Hey, I got a motion. Do I got a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I would just like to add, because they're coming back with, I mean, that's part of it, but we need to make sure they know to come back with a different
I think
park
they know.
proposal.
Staff can tell them, their agent or their
Oh,
the
okay.
applicants in the room. I mean, I think we beat that one
That's
to death.
understood, so it's
Yes,
good. Okay.
I sure hope so.
Does
I
it
think
have to
we
be in
beat that
writing?
one to death
Does
a
it need
little
to be
bit.
in writing? Okay, then we're
It
good.
is.
Okay.
We
Any
added-
further discussion?
Okay.
Commissioner Clontz,
Hi.
Commissioner Neville,
Aye.
Commissioner Wickern,
Aye.
Commissioner Favero,
Aye.
Commissioner Andreotti,
Aye.
Commissioner McCormick.
Bye.
Chair votes aye as well. That passes to table the item. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. And we love to see it when we do have public in here and we do get the input. So when they do the proper process and if they move it forward, please come back again because we want you to hear the new proposals as well as we want, your thoughts on it. So, all right. We do have another public comment process, not for everybody but Nate.
For Mr. DAVIS.
Yeah, to come up and speak. Just kidding. For items not on tonight's agenda. We're ready.
Here's Nate.
We only allow a
All
30-second.
I am starting the timer this time.
So because I'm on another board with entities, I'm dragging this out as long as I can. 'cause
And
they
you
drag-
yell at me for making those meetings
They
long.
drag my other meeting out.
You know, Nate, we're missing the rodeo. Because of you.
You're right. You're right. And I'm missing dinner by my mom, which is more important. So there was a lot of comments about concessions and bait and switches and things. And you could, if the city, and I deal with this in my professional job too, where there's a problem with the bait and switch and we get to the permitting process in a home and it's different than what we anticipated on our first copy of communication. But if there was a fee to that bait and switch, it would change. If you charge 50 grand after the subdivision amendment was done, it would stop changes and you would get it right the first time. And I encourage.
How many lots does this new phase have?
72.
50,000. They're going to laugh at it.
Well, how much are they going to make on that?
That's what I'm saying.
I know, but it would cause money to be moved.
Well, that's kind of what we're asking for with the parks donation.
Well, I know that, but if you put real money down, it will change it. They hate anything over 10 grand. They can't do, they say. I know. We ask for it all the time. Another thing, you're trying to push smart growth initiative. There's no way to do that under the current state building code. And if you don't know that, you should go read it. The state building code is so hard for builders that they've decided to amend the energy code to 2015 code because it's cheaper to do. And they don't want to do it.
Thanks
So
to the legislature.
That's why we have you, Nate, to tell us where we go wrong.
Well, that's what I do all day, right?
No.
You fail, Mr. McCormick. Thank you very much.
Hey,
And then-
man, I've been there.
And then the hard part, and Mr. McCormick knows this because I see him all the time in my city, is how do you get the water to the end of the road? We deal with this in my professional life. You go from planners, planning commission, back to planners, then to public works inspectors, to the building department, and you get stuff like stuff got built on different ground than was anticipated. Every entity has the same problem. You know, I go to technical review meetings in my professional job because the communication to get water to the end of the road sucks. And I get sprinkled on so I can at least have an idea of what's supposed to happen or what questions I need to ask to make sure we get it right. So we don't have as many residents in meetings or in the office asking, how did you make this a buildable lot? Right. And so I just encourage those things. I know you guys do a lot of stuff for nothing. So if you had that fee of 50 grand and then you take a percentage of each lot,
We get to divide it.
you could divide
I like
it.
where he's going with
Might
this.
be more.
And with 30 amendments per subdivision, you guys could be paid well like the commissioners.
That's
As
So-
I could see
That's
our
for the
attorneys
commission.
over there like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Can't require that.
All right. You even did it with the 3 minutes, even with some discussion. I put him on the timer.
More abuse for a cheaper wage anywhere.
Nope. We must like being abused for all the hats we wear sometimes.
Yeah,
All
dog
right,
catcher
Nate.
has it better.
I know. I was thinking Iris had a tough job, but I might have to reconsider. Remarks from the planning commissioners.
I have one. I'll make it concise or try to. I've had some discussions with developers, some of them in the room, and just I think it's important, and I think we're working this way to set the expectation. If developers understand what we're asking of them in development, then they know what to ask for property values. And we have to get infrastructure in. We can't reduce our fees because then we are either increasing taxes or increasing the burden on the existing community. And development cannot happen at the expense of the existing community. It's just not right. And so, I mean, $7,500. I think developers need to wrap their heads around that. How much money?
The only problem with that is, Sarah, what if their kids go to that park?
I'm not following.
The existing people. Yeah, they're going to go to the same park.
They are. And
But you still got to maintain a park. I mean, the rest of the growth
they'll
still
pay
got to come
the
replace it.
existing, they'll pay taxes to maintain the
But
park once it's.
You can't front end that too much because they're going to use the same services that's
Well,
created by the new money.
I disagree. I say that the new development pays for the impact of new development, and existing development already put in the roots of the community, and
If
they
they
paid
would
their
have wanted
dues.
that, they would have had parks already, and they don't.
But they don't want new development. So that's their concession. They get new development that they do not want, but they get parks that maybe they can stand. So that's why I feel like new development needs to be putting these in, and we need to be asking for it. And the way this works out is if we make sure the developers are putting these penciling it in, as everyone always says, it doesn't pencil. Make sure you pencil it before you buy it because we can't make concessions on the end. We can't reduce impact fees, and that's not what we do. But these things have to be considered for so that our current residents aren't paying for development they don't want.
I agree. A straight fee would be nice, but I mean, I watched the commission work session, and we're going to have a work session on this item here in a minute on Navy Meadows. And I really think we need to go back to what it says. You know, I think the developers are getting a little complacent of third acre means just because it's yellow on that map that they're automatically granted they can get this third acre. Well, Charlie knows very well because he wrote this and he could probably state it off word for word, but there has to be, and I don't know the exact verbiage, but some sort of, I don't know, Charlie, how's it worded? I don't want you to talk because then we'll be here even longer. But sorry.
I'm sure it has commensurate in there.
They have to put something to make up for that open space, and that's a big part of gaining that third acre. And I'll even be honest with you, I kind of have strayed away from that and looking at some of these subdivisions and seeing if they are putting forth what they need to get this, to get to that third acre. And after this, come right out of the county commission's work session on Navy Meadows, and that's why I look forward to having a joint work session with them to kind of bring us all, so we're all looking at it the same way and going off of what's in the document that was approved back then. So
We made that document difficult. It should have been third acre. Should have been third acre to start with, but here's the checkbox. You hit the checkbox, you're in. You got it. We made it just about as hard on ourselves, and we didn't necessarily do it. But I'm going to say because we were all part of the process, we kind of did it to ourselves, unfortunately. But Sarah, you're right. The expectation, there needs to be an expectation, so that a developer, when he's looking at a piece of ground, he has some idea of what those costs are going to be. It may not be exactly what he's putting penciling, so to speak, but at least he has some sort of an idea of what that amount may be. And then he can plus or minus 10 or 15%, whatever he wants to do accordingly. But that expectation does need to be set better than the way it is. And if our general plan wasn't, well, maybe if you do this, if it was, you get this, if you do this, it would make it much cleaner. Sorry.
No,
my 2 cents.
I agree.
Yep.
Can I make a comment differently?
You really don't want me to go like get to the rodeo tonight, do you?
No, it'll be short. Won't be popular, but it'll be short. Been thinking about this a lot, and a lot of these proposals that come through, and with townhomes and things like that. And I'm not against townhomes completely. But we keep hearing, well, the governor's telling us this. The governor says if we don't do this, then we're going to lose our freedoms. I just want us to remember that we need to, that the governor needs to remember who he's working for. And we should be able to speak up and say what we really want for our communities. That doesn't mean that I'm saying we should just force all townhomes out, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to push them in either. End of rant.
I appreciate that. We all need to run for the legislature and overpower the developers at the Capitol.
Raising enough funds for that
I
because
know.
they've got all the good money.
Okay, Director Grover.
I appreciate your guys' dialogue. I think it's been healthy. I know that there's been some disagreements on certain things, and I think it's just fine. That's the Planning Commission. There should be pros and there should be cons, and you should be able to dialogue back and forth. And I appreciate how you guys have handled it. So thank you. With regards to the general plan, just a few notes. The general plan is intended to be general. It's not an ordinance. And so, Commissioner Favero, when you're talking about those specifics, that's usually what's put into an ordinance when we're looking at those things. And the general plan, we typically treat it as a guiding document, but it's general and it gives you, the legislative discretion to make a recommendation to the legislative body, and it gives the legislative body legislative discretion as well. When we start looking at the legislative body, they may go against what you recommend on certain things, even if it meets all the guiding documents of the general plan. And because it is legislative, and they may feel now is not the time for it. And even if it does, in their mind, fully meet the guidelines of the general plan, they could just say, now's not the time. But most likely they're not going to. But just bear in mind that the general plan is general. It's not an ordinance.
It pretty well says that. I think it's in the first or second paragraph on the first page.
Yeah.
And I agree with that, Director Grover. My frustration is that when we have a room full of people, they're always quoting from the general plan.
Correct.
They don't know the ordinance. And so thank you. And I appreciate your comments. And I realize there's a proper place for that to be stated. And I get that. I just still think that our general plan would have been better suited a little bit different.
I agree. I agree with that as well. And I think at some point we may want to revise our ordinance to reflect some of those things in there, so we have those check boxes that are specific at a later date.
Hey,
I've said that for a long time.
And I know that you passed me by here, but
I'm sorry.
Would it be helpful if we got the gentleman from the valley down here talking to us about whatever they're calling affordable housing today, so that we get it from the horse's mouth?
Yeah,
Walter.
That's been brought up in the past, huh?
Yeah.
About having Steve come.
Yeah. And that's something we're working on with Steve and some other developers. They're working on having some discussion, not only with you, but with the county commission as well.
Perfect.
Yeah. We're just waiting to see where they're at on that. We've sent some direction back. It was with JDC Ranch, and they were going back to meet with Commissioner, or now not Commissioner, but Steve, and work some things out and then come back.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
I think that'd maybe add a little clarity to the mud, because I think that it's important enough to do, but here we are making stabs at it, or trying to, and it seems like that every time we think we're doing good, then we have a competitive thing that makes it less affordable.
Is that why you set me at the end?
You're less affordable.
Anyway, I'm done. It was a good meeting tonight, actually.
Oh, it's not over yet. Oh, got more. Liam? I've seen you over there stressing a few times tonight. You want the gavel you can throw at me next time? All right, we're gonna adjourn. We're gonna go back into the around the big table we're not having a work session on parks tonight. That was pulled from the agenda, but we are gonna talk about Windmill and Navy Meadows. So
I've got to run upstairs for a couple things, but I'm going to try to get back down here for Navy Meadows.
okay. Motion to adjourn to the work session.
Motion.
Do I got a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Yes, first family reunion here. Wow, yeah, I got one. Last time they came there, 50 of them. Yeah. What did they say? Did you get one too, you all? Yeah. Well, no, let's have it on a shoe hard.
The Windmill West one that we're talking about, so it used to be the Hartford subdivision. No, it'll be good. Yeah, well, we've actually come around and put anyway. So, whatever. Let's record it. Oh, yeah. After 25 years. Well, some people are, but it's usually, it's usually on commissions. City council. Commissioners usually. Different comments, you know, public comments are good. You need a, as long as they'll stick to the plan. That's the key. Oh, I know. I mean, it's the situation, present something based upon what you feel work and that's all you can.
Pretty good. We got stuff on.
Yeah, I know.
And so that's now done. We're officially like rezoned, and so now it's just.
Yeah.
Just to get the preliminary, all the engineering done.
Okay.
You know. Yeah.
So you haven't done the development yet, have you?
As you know, we finalized. the deal.
Oh.
How are you doing? Good.
Well, there's a clause about.
All right, you got the chocolate message. You gotta award them tonight.
We'll keep you guys happy.
That's what letter said, we kind of just copy and paste.
Hard to do.
Okay. So don't forget to get our-
Which one?
You know what? I do down 5 years before I pronounced his last name correctly. I said Richard for
Yeah,
5
no,
years.
and I, oh, you did.
But it was just one of them.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, whoa, like, what is that? Are you implying something? I know it was innocent, but.
Yeah, we don't.
Sometimes.
I don't even catch those.
How you doing, Mr. Hammer?
I'm doing good. Good to see you.
Well,
So.
election here. Yummy.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good.
Oh, that's great. You know, they can't end it made for those trails. We can? We can. Well, we would just go and. Jed.
Yeah.
I'm following you. I'm sure. We would then do that. We're not the county. We're and I started to sound more like Melanie. And I think we had to go through this. How did you stay in? There, where do you want me to sit?
Oh, you're hanging out
Over there?
far away from me.
You can sit right next to me if you want. You want to help me present too?
Why you asking me? I'm not the doctor.
Yeah. Oh, they took, yeah, well, let's wait till you're dead and gone then. Well, that might be sooner than you think. Oh.
They've got chips. I don't know.
Because when you slowly develop, how many acres do you have there? Not very many.
Every time, like, we have a meeting to ahead of too. Oh,
I gotta start getting this out right now. Oh.
you had a what?
I'm just hanging in there. We're gonna
Yeah.
be good hosts.
That's where this.
I'm gonna be out 30, 40 acres.
And I think that eating Cheetos is gonna solve my head problem, but well, let's get the orange fingers.
Yes. You got one on the other side.
That is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I've got payments and.
What time you up here? What is it, the open space? It's like.
Oh, yeah. I had
Well.
a different meeting last night for my work. It was like a neighborhood meeting about the water.
I'm done with them.
Three people. I'm like, oh, I gotta quit to angry.
Well, I still want that oxbow on
Oh, like, oh.
I'm gonna own it.
I know. Well,
What?
let's go
I'm
bet.
gonna own it. You're gonna?
Be done.
And then you can donate it to it for tax write-offs. No need any tax write-offs.
That's what I say till April 15th.
I just got done with it today.
Yeah, then I got a day to deal with it.
Look at my book, well, someone else's.
You know, I think somebody sabotages us. They come in here,
Seats all way
they
down.
come in here and they put them, what do they do that for?
Oh, what they're doing?
When,
Want you to think you're a toddler.
this one broke.
Oh, it's there.
No.
No, I've got my knees in my face, like I'm on an airplane.
Sit right here, Sarah, where I can watch you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
keep an eye on me. I'm bound to do something wild.
That's all I get.
Oh, everybody.
Mr. Hamlin, what are you gonna present us tonight?
Me?
Yeah?
I am just, we're making a little bit of a change on our proposal on Navy Meadows. We're dropping the amount of doors, lots. So now it falls right within the R115 zone. We've eliminated a bunch of townhomes, made more patio homes.
I like that idea.
So it's kind of a buffer type deal between, the townhomes and the patio and then the bigger lots.
Before you get going, Sarah, it's hard to work with.
And it's intentional.
I don't know about that. As long as we do what they tell us to do, we're okay. We
Well, I
did-
noticed that.
Something different every week, so good luck.
Well, we met with the commission, a couple of weeks ago, and they gave us their opinions. And so we decided, you know what, we're gonna go along with their opinions, so,
Well, you don't even need to talk to us then.
well.
You just go direct.
Well, the way they're gonna zone it though, I gotta let Rick, Felix speak, but I think they wanna take it off the F3 and just do an amendment to have it all be R15. So we don't even have that, not the F3, R3.
I know what you're talking about,
Okay.
yeah. I know.
But the R3,
It just got too
we won't even
complicated.
have that, it'll just be R115.
I
I think that was kind of,
Have appeased everybody,
yeah.
yeah.
So people to the west of us support it, don't come in and say, hey, I gave it to him, so give it to me.
Yeah.
And I know how.
Can't have a thin skin in this business.
No?
Just a couple black eyes once in a while, right?
Well, you're lucky I have. Had a kind of a black nose. I
Development.
did a rope swing over spring break.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I didn't throw the rope when I went down. You know how those big knots in it, and I was holding it higher. Smacked me in the face, like
That's a
the eyes.
horrible
Oh.
place to get hit, too.
Yeah, just make sure eyes were
Don't
open.
say what you said, Sarah.
Put up a 10-foot fence.
You want me to say it for you? The language you use when it smacked you in the face?
Oh, the language, oh.
I'll let it go.
I don't know.
So I can call it.
Falling.
You only have one of those rope swings at my.
We never
place
like
over
to
the
develop
river.
the same spot.
Oh,
And
wow.
the river's down, it's down.
Only West Weaver is very receptive, because nothing has actually been developed yet, so
And
it's
they
safe.
use the rope
So
swing
we've done.
and they fall on the shore,
Yes.
on the bank.
Yeah.
When the river's up, I mean, it's fun.
Right, yeah.
Most of our.
You're still in the river, right, Jeff? Yeah.
Like, oh, there's a whole 1 foot of water. Let's try this.
For 10 years it was that way.
The whole winter, yeah.
It's just gone.
And this year you probably get some decent
Oh,
water.
it's good. They're running, I'd say they're running over half of the river right now. It's
So how
been that way
deep does it
for
go
a
now?
while. Well, Glenn, they're all full up above, so they're running it out, so I still that.
That's pretty full right now.
They did an excellent job last year, and I think they can do that this year. They only flooded one place one day.
You know.
That's
They
awesome.
got that meter down and they kept it right at that point.
An open space dedicated 40 years ago to this subdivision, and it's just like,
Was the one
okay,
place
now we have to
Tom's
incorporate
place?
this. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Is that where it flooded out?
Oh, what is
You work with Lake at all?
Western League?
Yeah. It was down there around that S curve. and it was, One field filled up. And it was gone in a few days.
Have a nice one.
They took some banks out along the trail system though, and even on Tom's place in Plainfield, they didn't have big time for anything. You, get deer on there every day too. Like to look on.
She's great, but she's really good.
Oh, look, someone's trying to sweeten us up. That's why director.
We're all gonna come
upstairs.
And I seen these.
That's a whole 40.
So when I get desperate, I'm gonna call you and see if I can. Or night, whatever you want me to do.
My grandpa said, "If you want that, this guy's great, I'm not gonna go." Someday you'll.
The other guy's making. Tried to kind of say, oh, God, apparently you're not paying attention. I need some, maybe this will sweeten the mood.
Yeah. Brand, you're always in a sweet
I felt the
mood.
same way.
I
Got my wife.
get a headache at these meetings. Everyone else always get a headache.
No.
I do too.
And I keep thinking that you.
Reminded me of the first scathing email he sent us. And then I gave him a response that
On
explained
the other side.
He was like, oh, I didn't know it was like that.
Next morning.
Maybe you can assume that not everything.
Yeah, and maybe
Start
we
with
can
that.
assume that not everybody's not on your side.
Last
You
night
know,
was
that's
like people meeting.
Right.
I didn't know people meeting.
You were a different story.
I was waiting.
Hey, Charlie, let's get this thing going. Windmill number 2.
This project that is, you guys have seen it before, the Wilder and Bravia rezone request. We've got other people involved, and there's some tweaks that they're making to the concept plan. So before we even get them in front of you guys have already made a recommendation for approval of this project. Before we even get them in front of the county commission, we just want to make sure you guys solve the redesign of the project and just have eyes on.
They're redesigning it and we don't see it again?
That's what they're doing right now, and then they'll be coming to a public hearing next month. So yes, they
In
are.
front of us?
Yes.
Okay,
He said county, he meant. planning.
okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's what I'm sitting here thinking, wait a
I
minute.
said, but
We're bypassing
was
the
not the
level
right
here.
I know.
thing. Like,
I'm ready to throw
back up.
I'm ready to start throwing shit, Charlie.
I don't want to in your water.
Trouble, that's what it is. So with that in mind, we've got the developer here. Jack, if you guys want to get up and present the plan and have your discussion, I'll pull up the original configuration on the screen so you can see it.
And then I printed out what our new
kind of concept is. I can pass it out all.
That's right, you chat, Will.
Yeah, so we originally weren't doing anything with this property. We were doing the alley farms that, we already worked through and, all of you guys loved. It succeeded with flying colors. And then the developer of this property reached out to us, said, hey, we probably want to do something. We want to work with you. So we got our eyes on it, started to analyze and found a few ways that we felt like we could improve the property. We know that UDOT was having a really, really hard time with the access point on the top. We moved it 30 feet up and we kind of reconfigured the roads right on 4700 to kind of what UDOT would like a little bit more, kind of break up the traffic. We're still working with UDOT, but we feel very confident with this plan moving forward that it's something that they would approve, so we could have that 2 access points that you guys want.
So they told you to move the southern access closer to the hill and away from the alignment of the road to the west? That was a big point of contention when this first come through.
You moved it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, what access point, just so
So the road on the south,
yeah.
It doesn't line up.
it doesn't line up with the road across
across
the street. And that was a big point of discussion.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's on the
so
screen.
Yeah, what we used to have and how that was lined up, that was a big sticking point for us. And I had discussions with UDOT as well, and Todd Finletson, the region traffic engineer, flat out said, the further away from that hill,
Yeah.
because of the sight distance going over the hill, he supported the lining of the road as well.
Well, so this most recent plan, and we've had conversations and Bill has been a part of listening in on those meetings, so maybe he can give a more unbiased opinion. They're aware of this plan and they won't give access with the approved plan that you guys have seen and said, yes, let's move forward with this. They've said no. So this is our attempt to continue to work on that access because the kind of consensus that we got was
Can I
there.
clarify something? They won't give you the northern access.
They won't give us the northern access.
The west, the southern access they give.
Yeah,
when
right
it lines
there.
up.
Yeah, that's not the issue. It's mostly that north access. That south access, I don't think has deviated too much from what the original plan.
Oh, it's just like it was when Wilder brought it in the first time and we all said no.
The north access is the one they wanted to put a gate or
The
something.
north access is the right in, right out access.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, part of what we were trying to do is, yes, we did move that south access slightly lower. Because UDOT has a requirement of, how far can access points be, and so we kind of stretched it a little bit in order to meet that. We didn't meet it all the way, but we're kind of in the area that they would give a conditional approval for us. And we're doing the traffic impact studies to show how, this new plan works with what, we originally, with what this plan is.
So
Ideally,
I still have concerns then. I mean, if there's a certain distance between entrances onto a state road, I get that. They have their business.
660 feet.
Okay. I don't like moving this road back to the south.
okay,
That hill that's there where that canal is, it makes that even worse for vision looking south, when you're at that stop sign.
There's a canal.
And unless, the canal's right here.
Next to that house, right?
And unless UDOT's going to improve that road right there to go along with this, I don't like that at all. You can't see when you pull up there right next to that house like that. I'm surprised that this guy can see when he backs out of his driveway over that hill. That's my opinion.
Yeah, and the road needs to go back. There was a lot of discussion in that beginning. Those roads need to align for that southern access.
How can we require that, Noah?
The connectivity, it's not lining up with the road.
If UDOT's got control over that 4700.
Well, UDOT will approve this access.
It's the northern one.
It's this one that causes the problems because of how close it is to 400. The northern access becomes a problem Because of how close the distance is, we don't have a big enough map. Oh,
Here, sorry.
how close the distance from where that road is to 400. Well, you still can't see 400, but 400 is the top of on the corner by where Mile House used to be, that road. Going down like to your place.
That's 450.
That's 400.
400.
So the distance between this north road and where 400 sits is too close. This access here, no.
Well, I'd be really disappointed in UDOT to think that moving that more to the south is better.
Well, it doesn't
than either
matter.
leaving where it is or even moving it further to the north.
How does it meet the general plan for connectivity? You're not connecting with the road to the.
Road.
You're doing this, you're not doing this. So right there, it doesn't meet the connectivity and.
Because 400 is supposed to go clear down across the river sometime, right, Charlie?
Yep.
Okay.
In the long term, so let me zoom out just a little bit. I'm on Google Earth right now.
The one on the screen or the one on
The one in our hand. The one on the screen is the last version we've seen before.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Let's see, so the concern, as I recall it, that UDOT had wasn't 400, it was this non-street, 500.
Yeah.
Now, it's not 500, but it's not a street.
It's a private access.
It's a private access. It's being used by Green Acres Farm for their agri-tourism operation. Apparently, it's pretty heavily traveled when their tourism operation is actually happening. But it's not a county road. It's not a known public street. And so I have a little bit of a hard time with them considering that, even though it's acting like a lot like one, I have a hard time with them considering that to be
Do they have an
something that
access
affects
agreement
actual.
for agritourism to happen there? That's the question to ask.
Good question. I like what the planning commission did with the proposal that with this guy here. Just what they call that, right in, right out, call it a ham bone or something like that. Pork chop. Or putting a gate up or whatever. At some point in time, the Nature 4700 is going to be different. If UDOT really is going for 660 feet intervals, problem is out here, whoever did their math when they were pulling those chains originally, they shorted some of those blocks. And so you've got some blocks that are 700 and some blocks that are 500. And so.
Didn't have anything to do with Green County.
You ever met those surveyors?
Just to be clear, what you see on here as far as lot layout goes, what you guys looked at did not have lots on it. And they were just gonna go with the R115 street connectivity incentivized. And so they could have gotten upwards of 74 lots out of it, which they probably would have, if it had gone through the county commission. So
What's our solution to make the state happy and Brent at the same time?
I think, I gotta be honest with you, I think putting a gate up right there on the right in, right out, or well, they didn't want right in, right out, so just putting a gate up until they're ready to allow it to be connected will work.
Like a breakaway gate?
That'd be fine.
Okay, on which configuration? Any configuration there?
Either of them. So I don't know that the south one, I don't have big concerns with where this one is located. I think it seems to be in a good spot. Let's see.
If you drove out there, you'd have concern.
You mean,
that you don't have concerns that it's not gonna line up with the road across the street?
well, sorry, I'm pointing at the originally approved one.
Yeah, okay, there you
So
go.
I don't have concerns where this one is located. We haven't done a full analysis of all the details on this one, so can't give you full information, but if it's a street across the street, then yeah, we're definitely gonna wanna
Okay,
see some.
sorry, Charlie,
And
I apologize.
And we're jumping into this, we're just jumping straight into the deep end, right? And so, Cody's given us some information, and so this is still super malleable, and we are willing to, I'm not stuck on this.
Can I make a note? Just one thing, the trail that's right here, I would prefer to see that on the other side of the road, so that it's continuous without all these road and driveway interruptions.
Okay.
On the
I
south
think
side?
that'd be safer, yeah.
This is the.
That's a good,
That's just a minor thing.
observation.
Just so you know, in the development agreement, I think
These left
that,
trails.
Thoughtful.
I think the trail along that street itself, so yeah, we'll make sure it's on the south side, but we'll also write an alternative in the development agreement where if they can actually get the trail on the canal, it's private property right there, but if they can
Yeah.
actually get it on the canal, then that one isn't needed. We
Right.
just have them put sidewalk there.
Yeah. okay.
I'm sorry, sir, what was your concern with it though? I'm just logging.
Oh, just on this side of the road,
It
it's, you had lots of
Yeah,
road
so-
crossings and then like 2 more driveway crossings, and so just limiting the amount of
She
crossings.
was doing her math.
Safety. I like
So-
being a mom.
Looking at this configuration, if
I like it.
is the concern of the location of that southern road on the map that Trek handed out, is it regarding the rise and fall over the ditch?
Yeah, we would love to see it further away, but I mean, it makes sense.
At least
At least
move it, at least put it where we had, where
Right
it
here.
was
Where it
originally.
originally was.
Now, if they've got the ability to work with one of the Blanches and. Sorry,
No, don't laugh.
Hey, we worked with them before.
straight
Can't
face.
say that name out loud anymore.
Liam
We're
left.
being recorded, straight faces.
Say align, like, okay, so we've got one here that aligns on the other side. Is there anything that aligns on this side?
Can you show us up here?
Nothing
where
aligns
those-
over there.
where we're talking?
Not within their
It does
property.
Show us up the,
Okay.
really here.
Sorry, let me zoom out a
And
little
we
bit.
have to have two entrances and exits because this is landlocked right now.
the frontage
It'd be so
Right
nice
here.
if there was just only one access to 89 right here,
That's
and
the
it's not
south
the
one.
other two.
And then the north
Can't
is
do
over
it.
here somewhere.
Is there a
Show
road
us
over the
the
north?
south again.
On the north one, there's, on the north one, there's not a
Higher.
road over here.
Higher.
Right here.
It's above that, yeah.
That's-
Higher.
You see this canal right here?
Yeah, you got this
Up
right here,
there.
so you got a
So
road
not
coming
good.
in here, a road coming in
You're
here.
right, this is the canal.
Yeah, that's
I
the
know.
canal.
I thought you were showing the north one.
Oh, but there's not.
That's,
there are
that was the original.
Oh, right here, I'm sorry, right here, and then the other one's over
It
here.
doesn't go, you could turn down and go to the west.
So now, so the southern road here,
Yeah, it lines up with this one.
Northern road.
Oh, I'm sorry. I see
Well,
what you're
and
doing.
there's a 500 there and then 400 there, and
That's
that's
farmhouse.
They're saying they're too close together.
Oh,
Going all the way down. to
because we
the-
can't
But,
see the
but
existing
this
house.
is a major road though, a UDOT
Right.
road. It's not meant to
It's right
be
there.
crossed,
Yeah.
essentially. You know what I
The
mean?
general plan
Yeah.
shows it going all the way west.
Yeah, like it, on
400.
our other project, it'll cross the street and then follow the canal.
Oh, okay.
Property.
So it's like a four-way stop kind of deal.
At some point in time, yeah, and if 400 goes down and curves into what they call 500 and then back up again and crosses the river.
So Charlie, how many feet are there between whatever this street is on the south end and over to that next intersection?
The 400? The next
Yeah.
proposed intersection? Oh, the
No,
four,
the next one that's there, the actual intersection,
The 400 intersection or the 700 intersection?
700,
thank you.
700 is a little.
going north.
Like Eden
How much
dry,
would that
dry
be
crackers.
From where this road is right now, that comes up from Blanches over to the next intersection on the corner there.
Okay,
Of the proposed one or the?
No, the one going north, the next, not the proposed intersection, the next one to the north.
so this one here, 400?
Yeah, there you go.
Measuring it down to the
Yeah.
southern,
Down to the, yeah, the one where the road is on the other side of the street.
it's 1200.
1,200 feet?
Oh, wait. Oh, sorry, the one where the road is on the other side of the street.
Yeah.
Where 700 is,
Aren't we looking at the 500?
that's 500 right there, but 700 is further down.
Okay, so there's
500.
216 to 500, let's, so that's obviously a problem for them. Let's go zoom out a little bit more.
So from
500 looks like the road that goes through.
500 is a private road, it's a dirt
Yeah.
road, it's a farm access, it's not even a,
No, not,
UDOT doesn't consider that a road. And
it's an
in,
access.
yeah, in
Sadly,
the
it looks
future,
the
when that's
most
developed,
improved.
that road will not be there. Like that access is not compliant with.
not
UDOT.
500, Charlie, from the road that's
It's
being,
funny, it looks like.
from right
where we
here,
got out there.
from
Yeah, yeah, you're not
right
wrong.
here.
Here, okay.
Yep, over here to this corner on the next intersection.
So that one is 1222.
Okay, so between those 2 points, I mean, you're missing 120 feet, but won't UDOT work with them on
Finding,
something there?
that was our thought, and that's why it left you guys with a positive recommendation on the previous version of having that either right in, right out, or a gate. And so we were working with UDOT on that, and we were gonna get it in front of the county commission. Just county commission is the land use authority. UDOT is the highway authority, and so if they say no, then the gate goes up and it's just an emergency egress for the time being. If they say, fine, whatever, if they cave, then it's there.
Well, and that's something that we really want to do, because not only does it, impact you guys in the future, but it also impacts our project and the flow of our project. And so we're fighting it for ourselves as well, right? It makes the most sense for us to get that. And so I'm confident in it. I've worked with UDOT a lot. And so they're fun, but they're really hard to work with. And so
What does fun mean?
it always keeps you on your.
I work there. It's a ton of fun, dude.
Yeah, no, it's, so,
How many lots were proposed in the Wilder one?
So they were looking at getting 74.
Why did you change? Why did you want to change it?
so there's a few reasons. We met with Charlie as soon as we started working, and one thing that we wanted to do was rework the street connectivity. We like that through street that we have better than their through street.
Which one?
On the one on your plan versus what they proposed.
Right about here.
Yeah, because the developers below us, they actually have a road dedicated further to the east. And so we're just trying to align up our road with theirs to have it be a little
Further
bit
to the
more.
east. Here, let me. So that road that they're putting in would be right, or the road they're showing here would be right about here. So right about on the eastern property line of this property or the western property line of that property, which is probably where we'll get it, because that's where Heritage is proposing their next phase right there, or will be proposing it. So that would probably follow right up here and then come up through the subdivision on the new proposal. If you look at the other proposal, something that, something we didn't realize at the time was this road right here, as it's currently shown, doesn't go at the property line. It goes through a portion of that other of the Blanche property to the south. So that one goes, let me trace it for you.
Well, I'm good. I like their proposal a lot better because we're not building half streets, you're building the whole streets.
Yeah, and it just was not very efficient, right? No one likes, well, I don't like half streets. It's just a waste of space, especially to the north, that 500 south. If you look at the parcels, they're owned by different people and you just got a long skinny, so that person with that long skinny parcel isn't gonna develop a road, the other half of the road for the other people to use. So it just makes it for really messy, complicated development. So that's why we kind of took that out too.
I like what you're doing now. I see it better.
I like it, I just don't like where that road comes out on this.
On 4700.
Yeah, on 4700,
I mean, it's just a matter of taking out some of the detention basin. Do you have enough space in that detention basin, or if you cut it down, you can have enough room?
I think we'll have,
like they proposed in this one.
That's a lot smaller than the one proposed here.
I know, where you keep that one and add the space across the street, you still got the same volume.
Greg, would it be safe to
Oh,
say that the
but-
designer of this version didn't realize why it was laid out this way, so he just put it straight? Is that?
yeah, no, I would say that.
My guess is Reeve Chris Cave over at Reeve didn't realize we already had a full discussion about this.
No, 100%. We just took it and we're like, okay, let's make the best plan for this location, this parcel. Another thing that I don't wanna, well, maybe I shouldn't say this, but we are working with the Blanche property on our second access already, and so I don't know how official that road is, but there are some abilities to potentially move that road, unless that ditch really is just, that hill's just too big. And so it's better to have it more north. The south road on the plan.
They're gonna fill in that new pond he's building, put a road across.
It gives a little bit of a buffer for the current house too.
Charlie, do you have this that you can put up there?
What?
Or no?
I don't, sorry.
I could
The
email.
reason why Heritage
You wanna send
can't
it to me?
build
Yeah,
is because that developer hasn't put the pond in. He's kind of got a half pond over there, right where this road showing, but now they're gonna fill the pond in that he's gotta build to let him build on that side.
Let's
You know what, just put a bridge across.
Bridge the pond.
let's make sure it's clear for the record that we're being facetious.
No one really is talking about a bridge.
Let the attorneys argue about that.
You know, if you threw a flat rail car across that pond, that'd make a perfect bridge.
Yeah. We gotta stop. All
Oh.
right, what else you got for us, my friend?
yeah, here, we'll just, I do have one other thing, and you guys will probably be mad, but it was just an idea we had.
You're only making it worse on Doug, the longer you sit here and hype us
I'm
up.
sorry, it'll be quick. So this,
I'm just kidding.
here, I'll try to split it. This was we wanted to do multiple plans. And after our meeting with Charlie, we had this idea. we're not set on this, or we don't. I don't know, because it's townhomes, and
You're outside of the form-based zone.
our doctor friend just talked crap on townhomes.
I didn't talk
Worried-
crap on it, I said that we don't need to push them.
Yeah.
Where they're not being proposed.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Personally, I
I
think
may
that
put
we-
townhomes on my property. I'm getting one anyway.
I don't mind them, but I think right now there's just a lot.
Well,
of
you have a
pushback
whole
on it.
No,
generation
100%.
Yeah.
that will no longer get shoulder operations. It's all gonna be in
Carpal tunnel.
right here. That's
It's,
Oh.
the thing, where it come from, because we did recommend it in your first
I didn't know you were
on alley acre.
100%.
But you were right there in that form based zone. This one,
Is out of that form-based zone?
Yes. No, and we totally acknowledge this, and we expect a no 100% of the time,
Why
right?
not?
Maybe 99, right?
Hey, you gotta ask, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
if do anything for your road.
Here's the reason why we were kind of thinking this way, and we're thinking maybe add a little bit of density because, you know, we want to help build the infrastructure and build, you know, the community in this area, because this is the village area and it, you know, it is out of the form-based zone, but it is adjacent to it. And so what we were thinking is that pathway on the south, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say the B word in here, but Brad, who owns all of that land down there, it's gonna be really difficult to have him improve that pathway along that canal. And we were thinking about ways to offset the cost of potentially improving that pathway, making it so it connects to our project as well, eventually, when everything else gets developed.
there's another hurdle in the pathway though, and I think that might be just as difficult as the neighboring parcel is getting the irrigation company to allow you to build that on top of
Yeah,
it.
and that's something we wanna, you know, we wanted to start engage with, but I wanted to talk to you guys first, you know, and it's like, oh, should we actually engage in this? But, you know, we're trying to provide all of the infrastructure needed for this entire area, right? We're doing the sewer lift station, we're putting in secondary water all the way up, and it would just help offset the costs of all of this pioneering, and you have a pioneering agreement, well, we're working on the pioneering agreement for the sewer lift station, and, you know, we're the only development benefiting from it right now, so it's just us, right, we're paying for it. But, you know, we're not trying to just like complain and cry, 'cause we're gonna do it anyways, but it would help us be able to do more. We like it because it's a buffer zone, and we're not sold on townhomes, we do many different product types, we kind of like the idea of what you guys are doing, some patio homes or something to just not have it right. I don't know, just have homes riding along 4700 West, just a little bit of a different product type to kind of give this development a little bit of everything. It already has a very diverse set of, you know, unit sizes and home sizes, which we like, but it's just an additional thing that we think could be cool to tie into our project. And if you hate it, no worries.
Well, before Brent tells you that,
townhome, you ought to provide more place in there.
before
Yeah.
Brent tells you he hates it.
Yeah.
And we,
I hate it.
we definitely could.
Too late.
Well, there's just no place to park in them, and if you don't provide some for their friends to come see them.
Yeah. No, I live in a townhome right now, guys. I know the pains. I'm experiencing it.
Like, where do I park? That park on the street.
But do you like it?
I actually, you know, it's not my forever place, but it was the best entry to owning a home.
That was my answer to.
And I agree with you 100%, but the cost of them scare me.
Oh,
We put this on as,
It's
for our
4 or 8,
next
take
item.
your pick.
You know, we were supposed to reserve a portion of those as affordable. Well, when they met with the housing authority and affordable come back at 450,000, I about died.
yeah. Well, and the nice
That
thing,
wasn't the intent of where I think we
No.
were going with that. but
yeah,
We can talk about that next.
yeah, well. And, you know, the nice part about putting townhomes out here is they're not going to be as high as like the Layton and Farmington. I looked in those areas initially, you know, I'm pretty young, guys, if you can't tell, and way out of my price range. It was absurd, right? And so I had to find, you know, yeah, Ogden.
Yeah.
Like 1966, it's like older than my mom. And
Why did
so-
your nose scrunch up when you said that?
Okay.
But anyways, I think these would be a little bit more affordable than some of
Oh, hold
your-
on. Now I got a question. I just figured the density up. So you're asking for additional density to get the townhomes.
Yes.
Right, it is zoning.
And
There's no R3 anywhere close to this to try and justify. Is there?
Well,
Uh,
12 and 47.
the townhomes that we
Keep in
gave,
mind, he said it was just something they didn't want, so let's just move on.
closest is the townhomes to the south on 4700 across the street.
Yeah,
In their
that's
other
in the
project.
form-based zone.
It's in the form-based area, but not the form-based.
it is a reach, so if it's not even a discussion,
made it
that's
a
totally
form-based.
fine. We just wanted to present you with multiple options, and if it's stuck, that's fine. If it was, I don't know, like water paint on a whiteboard, then that's totally fine too.
So the proposed density on this one's 97 units.
Yeah, so we asked for additional density, which,
On this one, are you at 74 on the plan without the town?
yes,
Yeah.
74.
And it was 74 before, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that didn't change.
74 is what, based on the acreage, is what they can build, right?
Yes, it's 74.65.
Yeah.
But you are right on 4700. That's the next red.
They're still the same units.
I don't want to bait and switch anybody here.
Some of the lot sizes.
But
So-
I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, so
Average is still the same.
The
previously
townhomes
they
in
were
a nice
showing, so like
development
60 something.
don't bother me that much.
But the development.
They really don't.
They,
And, I'm not saying that this is a right or wrong place. I haven't made that decision yet. But I would entertain it. I would be willing to entertain it. Yeah, that might not be the perfect layout.
With the additional density,
4700.
you would entertain it with the additional density.
Only if we got kind of a, and this is gonna go to your next topic, if we got something that's moderate, a percentage that's moderate priced at two title.
Well, and we also want to contribute more. We know we're asking for more and we want to give. I'm not trying to be greedy. That's why I said this is like a 1% option. We don't care. But we think with the extra density, we might be able to do more in this crucial village area, especially while it's still developing, right? And we're kind of the pioneers of that village area right now. So we think we could do a lot with this. And so,
How's that
I'm-
not part of the plan?
I'm just worried that we've just had a lot of pushback from the townhomes when we get the community coming in, and so maybe it's not the time for townhomes.
Well, it's never been my side, that's the problem.
Well, but to the point, they haven't necessarily been less expensive either, so that's.
Well, that's what-
That's
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not against that. I do like the idea, but
True, if we can make them more affordable.
it's not
that might be
boundaries to
more
us.
reason.
That's Sharon
But
made
it
the exact
doesn't, I
comment.
guess when we did the general plan,
It's just a line on a map.
adding more
But it's a
density,
canal, it is a
this
boundary.
area wasn't
They
my
flat out said that.
suspicion
what the
is that they're
residents
gonna be
wanted.
okay with it.
I'm okay with this, but I'm just a little, I'm just nervous of,
They just-
you know, the reception of
rezone
everyone around.
That's fair.
It seems like they're not, I mean, like,
And so we'd have to do it for
our
development.
next,
Say,
developer had to
our
take them out
50s in
because
for
it's
this
just
little pocket. you
too
get
much.
some townhomes.
too many people.
That's fair.
Could do it on this one.
We'll talk next.
So that's a concern.
All right, you're talking me more and more into it. I'm not.
no, please,
I'm not
no,
trying
no.
to
You guys-
No, I just, in light of what's just, I mean, and I get we're on our own voice, but when it goes to the actual final say on this, they've been pretty hard pressed on those lines. And that's just my concern with it.
The water.
No, the county commissioners. We'll talk more about it when Doug gets up with his. I sat and listened to that work session. And I mean, we feel as a planning commission, you know, it was close, it was adjacent to that, you know, R3 on the other side of the ditch, even this one, form base on the other side of that ditch. But it was pretty adamant between the commission, that ditch was a line in the sand.
Well, that's where.
This side stayed
Right here,
at what it
we
was,
got
on-
that plan, not following it.
which I would, and this is just speculation, I would assume they're gonna see the same thing on this ditch.
So it wouldn't do us any good to change it anyway.
That's.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's in their right to try and propose and wanna move it forward and, you know,
have
we
a
might
great
support
backup
it.
Option too.
We might support it, but upstairs might not. I mean, we thought we sent a good one through with Navy and we had a lot of, I mean, it was unanimous support from the county commission and the county commission really wasn't in favor of what was done there, so. That's why we're meeting again to discuss a little bit on what went on, so that's where it's for.
No, totally.
You know.
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take too much more. of
I
your
don't
guys'
want-
time.
Ah, hell, we already missed the rodeo.
But to that.
Last two events are going on right now.
You're going to get that. For nothing. And you know that.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I don't mind listening to the proposal.
Me?
I don't think I'm gonna support it or not, but if you wanna pitch the proposal, I'm willing to listen to it. But
You
it's gonna
missed
have to be
it.
a pretty good proposal to make.
It's
it.
not on the agenda no more. I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the
that's a lot of extra density.
And that's the attitude we should all have. We should be willing to listen to the proposal.
Charlie, can we have like a,
Recording goes on.
start with the townhomes and have a backup option if they're like, no, but
Well,
we'll approve this plan.
You can ask them, you can ask them 2 questions and we can send the county commission 2 recommendations.
Really?
Should I throw a recommendation before it even gets to that point to save everybody time?
Sure.
Take this upstairs to a work session with the county commission, lay these 2 down on the plate and say, which do you support? It's gonna save you guys a lot of time. It's gonna save our time.
Well, this
I'm running it
requires
through the
a
process.
This is more than just a rezone. This is a general plan amendment, maybe if we require.
It's gonna have to
it.
be a general plan amendment.
It doesn't have to be, but that's the path we've been taking.
Well,
Yeah,
the
we could-
way the rules say.
We-
should be.
Well, we could do it through the, development agreement. The general plan does support, despite what people will tell you, it does support additional density if certain concessions are provided.
Okay.
And so we can find support for it in the plan, but it's not yellow. You know, the map says yellow and people just want to look at the map because it's easier to look at than reading the plan.
That's my recommendation. I would take these 2, get a feeling of what they're gonna support and bring us back your best effort from there.
Okay.
Just a quick note on moderate income, not median household income, moderate income. That's a mortgage of $200,000 or less. So it's gonna be hard to build townhomes at that price.
in a cell phone.
So there you go. It might not pass the test just based on that, because I'm looking at a percentage and more than the 8% of this being for moderate income.
Yep.
And, you know, the usual park, contribution as well.
Yeah.
So if it can't meet that, then I'm not interested in it.
Instead.
Well, but I think what we need to take into consideration, I don't know that new homes are going to meet
That's a
with moderate
kind of
income,
standard.
but as long as we're building something that maybe just above that, so we can move people up out of the moderate income housing, get into the new homes, because to me, I don't think your first home is a brand new home.
Right.
I think we are vacating the homes by creating maybe just that level above, because it's hard, new development to build that low.
The existing homes aren't gonna sell for 3% mortgage for 5-10 years.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Everyone's
there are
locked
no
in.
existing homes
Right, sure.
that
Because-
they can buy. Because
There's nothing on the market.
Oh, I see.
There's nothing for sale.
Well, the apartments and, well, when they're all getting foreclosed on, it'll.
That's what I waited for. Then we won't need, we won't need any.
I walked in, I'm like,
Well, but that really, the lowest one,
With the kid.
they cycle through pretty quickly. Like there are a lot of those that have been bought since the low rate.
Well, you mean the townhomes there?
Yeah,
You know,
maybe
push
the
it
townhomes that were built.
We go through all that. I'm talking about the
But then,
existing.
I mean, they do have.
Yeah, yeah.
Additional.
Yeah, so I'm talking about the existing condos, townhomes, and those are bought, I think
They'll get
those,
you
they
given the-
cycle quite often, and so I think that will become vacated quicker. Probably not the nice single homes, no, but that real starter level, I think will cycle.
It may be possible to do something like a certain percentage of moderate income, a certain percentage of median income. So that would be closer to $280,000 mortgage, I think, at median.
And I really just oppose those, I just don't think it's, because what happens is we're subsidizing someone living in a cheap home and someone ends up paying more, and neither one of them are millionaires when it comes down to it. They're both having a hard time affording their.
I don't like to say.
But so the subsidization, sorry, that was hard to say,
Yeah.
would be by the developer. So the whole point is that they make enough money on the other parts of the project, that they can build this.
Right, but when they make money on those other projects, by making money on the other parts of the project, someone else is paying more for the rest of the project to
Correct.
subsidize
see.
that one.
I see.
And that I just don't agree with.
Yeah, and in practice, what happens is some lots just sell much higher than they should be, above market price to compensate for it at a lower price. So really,
It's a winner loser situation, yeah.
you know, and we want to do our best being as honest and forthright as we can.
Yeah, our goal would be that it eats into your margin, not that it
Yeah.
increases
And
the price
it
tag.
just won't, I just don't think that'll happen.
Yeah.
Which of these two did you really want?
I genuinely would be fine with either. You know,
No,
I
don't get
guess
more houses.
I'm a bit younger, and so I like the idea of having maybe not even townhomes, but a patio home or we have some in Kaysville where, you know, you're maybe 5 feet away from the house, but it's separate walls. That'd be my preferred right now, because I don't have a lot of things, I don't have kids, right? So just like me and my wife living together in a home that's comfortable, you know, and we can afford.
Patio home, single level with that are closer to each other, so you can get more square footage.
Zero
would
and
be
five,
nice.
0 on one side and 5 on the other.
Zero.
Yeah.
No,
That's a-
some product types that we've done, you know, we've been able to go like 3,000 square feet on some of those homes and, you know, double level, but they, you know, we could even show you some that we've done and they're really cool product types. For people who are retired and they don't want to have as much maintenance, and for young people, it's both of them are both looking for the same thing. which
Even
is
in
really-
between, I have a friend, has 5 kids, has a house that it's, I don't know, 2,500 square feet. No yard whatsoever, he says it's the best thing in the world, he has a park that's close to it, his kids can go to the park.
Yeah.
He says, I don't ever have to mow a lawn, we can go and do whatever we want when you want. Everybody has a different lifestyle they want, right?
No, totally.
That's not my lifestyle, but that doesn't mean that it's not wanted by a bunch of people. When I think about this more, I'm thinking about the future, and I think about across the street and what that could potentially be, because as we say, agriculture is going away, yeah. That's all probably gonna be houses within the next short time, I would assume, you know, imagine possibly. So why wouldn't this fit here? It could.
Well, and is it the elementary going on the east side of this project? Because the school owns.
Junior high school.
Huh?
Yeah, but we
It's
can't
another-
guarantee it. Junior high school, but we can't
Junior high
guarantee.
school. Yes, but
Guarantee it.
they own that land, right? And so as more houses come in, the need arises, which also, you know, helps this even more, right?
Mhm.
They're gonna go over to the junior high or wherever, right? Like me and my wife, we go on a walk every single night together and we go to the park that's, I don't know, maybe it's a half mile away, but we enjoy the walk to the park and then we walk like.
Yes.
And this would be kind of in that one of those areas. There is a designated park. And so there's a lot of future growth in that 50 years. When someone like me moves in because it's cheap enough now and, you know, it's kind of run down. That's the person that's the person you're really impacting, right?
Yeah.
So Director Grover is, sorry. But is that possible for him to do, is to go straight to the commissioners and have a work session rather than?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can set that up.
How does he get an appointment?
Advantageous instead of,
Get on
you
there,
know,
get on
just for
there.
time.
They have a work session every Monday.
But would it be fair to just take a straw poll right now? Because the first thing the commissioners are gonna say is, what did the planning commission say? We don't want to do anything against the planning commission unless we do.
I say we're
disagree.
open-minded. I'm open.
Well, and we really can't do that because this isn't a forum to.
Yeah,
to
it's-
vote.
Just a general straw poll, not a.
Not a
Well,
formal.
isn't that
formal.
kind
I
of
don't
a-
mind that on
We-
47.
We're willing to listen.
If Liam was here, I don't think he would.
Yeah, where the
You
heck?
think
did he
so?
go?
Yeah.
I just don't want to send it to the
Chance to object.
county commission to even
Is that
look
what
at it unless he knows that you guys would even. support
I
it.
think the count would, I mean, I think we're open to the ideas.
Well,
We're
we
open to
can't
ideas,
Support it because we did and then they shut it down. So,
but just
Okay.
given,
you know,
Yeah,
that's
in
what
light
you
of
can tell,
what's seen
like they did
before.
already.
Yeah.
Well, then maybe it's a waste of his time to go there.
I think the answer is we're open to entertaining.
Yeah. and I
Perfect.
think
but
that's fair.
we want to get their feelings on it. On their thoughts and maybe a little feedback of if they do support this, what they would like to see different. If not, then let's wait, save
But-
everybody a little bit of time and let you guys move forward.
Yeah.
But what maybe, what we can see the next one, but having this many units, but maybe just making all of the lots smaller might be more advantageous than.
The same number,
townhomes.
74 total.
Yeah, maybe the same number, but just really shrinking down the lots. I think that gets more, townhomes can be hard sometimes with ownership and shared walls and things. and People just wanna own their own plot, so.
Yeah. Well, the difficult part, if
I don't know how you make them any.
we
smaller.
do just our standard 74, we're just gonna do like the original plan, because right now, the value of
Spread it
a
out.
single family home is greater than a townhome or patio home.
Okay.
The margins are greater, and so, you know. We were kind of, and we would be fine, you know, giving some of our lots away for the townhome, so it's less. We're not asking for as much density, but, you know, we would much rather, in terms of just pure money and margins, it makes more sense to do the original plan instead of cutting some of our land for
Wait,
townhomes.
oh, these have,
Does that make sense? So that's asking for like, what, 20, 25 more.
You're asking for
This is 25 more
Yeah, than the original.
than the original.
97 on the townhome plan, 74 on the other.
But 25 more into this arrangement wouldn't be profitable for you?
No, it would if we were to like shrink.
Yeah, shrink the lot.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, yeah, we're kind of making like a patio home area.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Or
patio
smaller home,
home,
smaller
smaller
single
home,
family.
Smaller.
That's
and
more
they're-
road, that, I don't support that idea at all.
You know, this is how I look at it. We got a young guy here to kind of make this work. So he just explained how he's moved into a townhome, he's a young couple, they bought this townhome. With the intention of being able to sell that home at some point, in time, be able to afford the home that's right here. Because now they're starting a family, they know that West Weber Elementary's over here, and maybe by the time they get through the elementary school or part of the way through the elementary school, they know that the junior high school is gonna be right here.
And they don't hate their neighbors.
And they don't hate their neighbors, and so they just wanna go from here to here. So it comes back to what Commissioner Andriotti always says. You don't wanna necessarily move away from the neighborhood, you just wanna be able to afford through life to be able to live there and stay there. Does that make sense?
Well, you explained what me and my wife are going through right now, right? We're thinking, man, we love the area, like we've fallen in love with the area. We know that in the next 5 years, we're going to need to move out. You know, we want to find something nearby, right? You're creating a community within this neighborhood.
There you go.
Well, it's just like what JDC Ranch does it.
Yep.
Green Farms over there, it's out of our area. That's what, Doug was trying to do there. We agree, that's,
JD's put that right in the center. And this is how you start building a community out here where we've got still a significant amount of open space, but it's the point of building the community. To me, so that 50 years from now, and this, when and I don't know if it'll even be built out in 50 years, but when it's built out, there's communities like this throughout this whole area out.
Yeah.
Because it is going to build out. Let's not kid each other. This thing, the ag is going away. And it's unfortunate, but it's what's happening. So we need to make it what can be the best situation for 50 to 100 years from now.
And you're right, there's a lot of smaller lots in this, and so, guys, just propose these two and see what they say.
Okay.
Just so you know, as we look at this, I think the county commissioners are gonna wanna know that you're not making hand over fist, but that it pencils. I think they are very interested in you putting a lot of effort into the current community. I like your idea, if you do get extra density of really trying to tackle that trail along the canal, it means you've got to convince the minds on the canal district, and you got to convince the minds of the owners, or find some legal means of doing it.
Yeah.
But, I just did the math, and that's about a $250,000 infrastructure improvement, but the value of having it there because of the land itself and how challenging it will be to get that connection in the future is probably pretty big.
Yeah.
So that's something, but that's
We have
probably
some
not all.
relationship with Brad. I wouldn't say a great relationship. Yeah, so he kind of like promised us things, but I crossed his mind back, so.
I can't say anything. I'm on. All right. Thanks.
Anyway, yeah, so thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I appreciate
I
it.
think it was a great idea, taking the commission and see what they say. I mean, I'm willing to entertain it. I think the commission is- this commission-
Did we resolve our major concern? I don't
Yeah,
remember.
with the road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we're
get
gonna
that
work
road
on the road.
Yeah.
Are you
Please.
okay if we shoot for the 22nd, because Charlie and I are both gonna be at a conference on the 15th?
Yeah, that's
For the work session?
Yeah.
And that'll give us enough time to really think about that value add with adding that density.
Okay.
So, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Sorry, I took so much. I tired them out though. They should be easier to.
We're getting feistier as the day goes on.
You want me up here?
Yeah, get up here and join us.
How's it going, guys? So I've got the plan up. So this is
Yeah.
the plan that you sent to the county commission. And then I'll switch over to.
Yeah, that's the old.
Let's back it up a little bit and.
Yeah.
Not everybody in the room knows why we're sitting back around this table, and I'll just kick it off a little bit. I mean. It passed through us, we approved this, it went to a work session with the commission so that they could get it on their next agenda. And it was pretty unanimous between the three commissioners that they did not support the R3 side of this and changing that to the R3. Charlie and Doug and Justin were there. They brought up a lot of good points. I mean, kind of like us and like we discussed, R3 is everything to the east. But they felt that boundary of that canal was a pretty fine line, pretty defined line that they didn't want to see it jumping across. Commissioner Harvey threw in some odd comments about not so much townhomes kind of leaning to where you are, more about patio homes and stuff, and I was really scratching my head through that part of the conversation, Harvey.
And that he wanted 50% of the townhomes to be
Sometimes
patio.
the later we get to the looser looks.
And so we made the change on the new plan, but in reality, we have much more than 50% because at the time we had 66,000 square foot lots and they were for patio homes. Now we have 60 and 27 or something, but we have almost 90 patio home lots in the new plan. And in the new plan, we have 47 townhome lots, which in the old one, we had 98. And so we've actually dropped our doors down to 214, which in reality, we're gonna be about 212 once we get a detention basin or two in there. So we're allowed to have 212 based upon our acreage. So we're right at what our R115 will allow us to
So we
have.
don't have to do the R3 amendment in there?
No.
It can just be, we don't have to do the general plan amendment, we can just move it forward.
Is that correct, Rick?
Yeah, that's right.
You can do townhomes in the R115?
If we write into a development agreement as a permission, so,
Okay.
for example, we just did that for Winston Park, I'm working on the development agreement right now, and we just say, your density is this, your max density is this, for Winston, we said at least this amount of that needs to be in townhomes. And in the R115 zone, each townhome building has to meet the lot development standards of a single family residential dwelling. And so.
But
even though
the
you might have
doors, number of
six,
door density doesn't change, right?
But overall, the density.
See, in the 5,000 and 6,000 foot lots, all you're gonna be able to put on those is patio homes. And so we have 87 lots, which is much more than 50%. We're exceeding that by double.
Yeah.
Well, even more than that, but we're fine with that because and his concern is that move up, we have a lot of people my age and older that wanna get into a home and don't wanna have a big yard. And they can go in and buy a patio home and even young couples, I wouldn't wanna exclude it to younger people. I wouldn't want 55 and older situation.
No, I think it's an open.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that,
Yeah.
we live.
If you want a 55 and older community, you do a community that's that, not in a subdivision like this.
Yeah.
So, and we were fine with the changes. It doesn't bother me. Like I was telling Felix, I go, well, it's not like we're losing 30 lots because we really never have.
Yeah.
You never have it until it's done. But
I like that attitude. I wish more developers had that attitude.
Originally, you didn't have any.
Right.
Those, right? It was all bigger lots.
Yeah, well,
We kind of talked you into
originally,
doing
yeah.
some townhomes.
Right, and then we
Yeah.
decided to try the townhome and Felix said, yeah, this is a good one to try it on, because we're right next door
Yeah.
to that property that you could get the R3. It didn't work, so we're ready to move it and change
Well,
it.
that's the problem I see with this. You're gonna get 47 of them anyways, and that was my thing with the original proposal. What's another 30? They get an additional 30, it fills it out. Look at what we're getting, what the community's getting with more of that open space, and that's where I struggled with what the commission thought.
So with the commission, I'm sorry. Rick. So with the commission, they're concerned with the line, right? You said the canal line.
Yeah.
Having, is it any townhomes or any?
No, it just-
that.
Changing that color,
Okay.
moving that orange across the canal, I feel was the big.
It's just about the maps.
Yeah.
Because I think it communicates to the public something very
It
different.
does.
Commissioner Bolus was very concerned about creep. And if you color this one multi, then maybe the next one and the next one and the next one. Whereas if they cut the line right here and maybe still give some concessions on townhomes, that fits with what's next door. They don't have to change the colors on a map and they could tell the guy to the west, no, sorry, this is a single family area.
Yeah, it's all R115, that color stays just with the general plan.
That still changes, look at Washington Boulevard.
Yeah.
We could have fit more townhomes in there, but we had eliminated, some of the patio home lots. I mean, we still be able to, in fact, it was Commissioner Murray that said he's not worried about the number. He says, I think I can get to the number, if you can remember that comment.
Was it Commissioner Floor?
Or maybe it was Rohr.
Or was it?
Harvey.
Bolos?
Oh, Harvey, I'm
Harvey.
sorry, Harvey. He said, I'm not worried about getting to the number, it's, I want 50% of them to be
Oh, yeah.
patio homes.
Yeah.
But you can't do it, you can't do both.
Right.
And we come back with this, and I think, is this kind of what you guys were thinking when we talked out in the hall, you know, as far as
Yeah.
the layout?
What size of home is a patio home, in your opinion?
Well, we built a patio home
Is this
down
the
in
new
West
layout,
Haven
Felix?
that's 3,600 square feet. It has bonus room above, but still it's considered a patio home. There's no basement.
So is it,
3,600.
so there is this, okay, a bonus.
Yeah, it has a bonus room, a big family room, a bedroom and a bathroom.
Okay.
So it adds, 1,500 square feet to a 2,100 square foot home.
Did you have any interest in putting, size limitations on any of those patio homes, or would you rather
Oh, yeah.
just let the
Well,
market do what it's gonna do?
I mean, as far as the size, how many square feet.
Yeah.
It's a minimum, we'd have a
Yes.
minimum
Okay.
square footage, but we wouldn't make it too minimum because we're trying to attract affordable housing. So you can't say 2,000 square feet, then try to, build it for a 1,500 square foot home. So we'd probably put them around 1,500 square foot as a minimum.
Okay.
And we'd have a lot of requirements as far as pitch roof, exterior, brick, stucco, whatever requirements. We're not gonna, we would have it.
Yeah. So I guess what changes in this one,
We
though,
would put
didn't we
some
talk
pretty
about
stiff,
limited access on that?
restrictions on there.
Would you be comfortable in development
On the
agreement
main road running
if
through
we
there.
said 1,800 square feet, main level? So if you wanted
This
to bonus
totally
or
changes
whatever.
our discussion we
1,800
had
square
about
foot
limited
max
access
footprint,
along
would you
there.
be comfortable with that in the development?
Yeah, you're right. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Access now is.
That wouldn't affect the bigger lots.
No.
In the subdivision.
No, just the patio.
There's two ways you can do that.
And I don't.
Give a smaller footprint.
There you go, Brandon.
And require a third car garage.
So what,
And you
what
can't
if
really
we,
kill what's
what if
right
we
there.
changed
Right.
it up a
And that's,
little
that
bit
sells a
and
lot
required the
better.
80-foot access road?
Okay.
We did a patio
West.
home project in Clinton.
Oh, down
and,
there?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
lots,
And
all the
made
homes
that
were
road wider with
1,600
the trail and the pathway along.
1,900 square feet.
Cause
The
that
only
was-
one that went higher than that
It would be
were a
traffic
couple
calming,
of
because
bonus
it's 80
rooms.
feet with that.
So,
You're,
and they were
and
the
you're still
same
getting the
exact
same
size
kind of-
lots.
I get it's
as
not
what
on
we're making here.
on a
Okay.
half, on a quarter section line,
I wonder,
but
when you go back to where
I
you
don't
were.
have an issue
And then
with that.
Brandon-
So the concern is just I'm worried about how much parking's in that townhome area. It looks like
I'm not sure how to do
it
that.
might
Go
be
back
a
to
few more
your,
shelves.
minimize it again. where you
So
were.
we have a minimum
Sorry,
parking
so
amount
There
for,
that, am I
townhomes.
right? Sorry.
so regardless of
And
what
now
this
just
shows,
drag
they're gonna
that
have to
one
comply
over.
with the.
Yeah.
And
One
what is
tab.
the minimum parking?
Oh,
Cause
this
I
I
can tell you.
have noticed
Yeah, and it
no
should
townhome
should
buildings
separate
have enough
for you.
parking.
Okay.
None.
We can certainly add to that.
you'd have
Send
to
up all
open
of
another
the street.
screen.
At least they'll be in front of their own streets. They won't be like plugging up everyone else's streets. So that's helpful, but it gets hard, like they can't have anyone over and then they're just like
Yeah.
Mhm.
on both, it's a
Yeah.
narrow street and they're parked on both
Right.
sides. It gets hard.
Well, we're at this point now where if we can't accommodate the parking with the way it's laid out, we're gonna have to either lose.
Ran on that north south.
Lots,
which is
or
what-
we're gonna have to lose half a building or whatever to accommodate.
It's at-
Ask for it to come back in a work session to get their body on, or do they want them to rehear?
Right here.
The commissioners, they wanted to
So
rehear.
that's, Andrew, I apologize. I
So,
didn't switch it.
Just, so when
Say it.
this proposal come up to us, one of the discussions we had was, because this is an 80-foot right-of-way road.
Right.
About limiting accesses to that.
Way to go, Brad.
What'd I do? I don't know.
We have that in a development agreement.
So with that being, and so we see this now, go to the new proposal, Felix.
Just, there you go.
So now what we've done through what the commission wants, we've added a whole crap ton of driveways along this main crossroad with the trail and stuff. What's you guys' opinion if we let this go back to a normal road and we put that bigger road through here, making the connection to the north? Just because we're probably cutting the access points into that more of a main corridor, probably in half.
Before you get an answer to that, I just wanted to let you know, we already told Doug in a development agreement that there won't be any driveway accesses to that 80-foot wide right of way. And so in a development agreement,
we're obligating them to finding a different way to get access to each of those lots.
So you have to be-
Rear,
Well, you could
rear
put
loading
your,
or whatever.
put your townhomes all the way along that.
How
We
is
have a back end.
I don't see how you accommodate that with this new plan.
I don't see it either.
You can do an alleyway or something like that, to get rear access. to
Oh,
those lots.
okay. Then
I
you-
don't like that. Put the big road over here.
It's the same over here.
But you'd still, it's not a matter of reducing the access. You need to eliminate them on a road that's that big.
What about right there on the
Yeah.
entrance though? That's not great either, right? Having access on those.
It'd be the same thing. So along the 80-foot wide right of way,
Whole way.
the standard that we talked about, the development.
So if, I mean, they're
I
gonna
don't
have
have
to
a
find
problem
a
with that.
access already.
We did mention that to Chris Reeves, he's aware
About
of
an alley?
it. You know, I think
Which,
that we would wanna have like a alleyway behind those.
so this is a good example of, and this is something that, that Chris Cable or Reeve and I,
Right.
we've talked about before. This is not just a pathway, it's also a driveway.
Oh.
And that's how these ones go. And so you can see the same thing potentially going there.
It'd be just like.
It would be easier to do it on patio homes than it would be on.
No,
bigger
I know.
lots.
I agree.
But I
Or
would
down.
make sure you
Yeah.
restrict any access off of
If we
public
moved
street.
into the west. it would-
Yes.
Because I don't want alleyways
That's all your problem
and
with
public street type access. I would want no access.
Well,
from-
they'll be able to get
public
better.
Yes.
access.
That's,
They can only be accessed through the alley.
that's what we already.
So it'd be
we've
just
got
like
that,
those,
in the draft
just like what
development.
we've seen down in Utah County when we went down
That's
there.
right.
Single family homes, roads,
Alley,
garages in the back with the alley down on the private.
And then they can.
Nelson Homes did a project in West Point, it goes down right west of the block golf course.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you're talking.
Yeah.
We're doing something like that, Longhorn.
Yeah.
They're doing, stub streets on the side of the busier street so that they're along that main street going north-south, there won't be any driveway accesses. They're gonna have shared driveways that go to 4 lots or 6 lots over there. And each of those driveways, I think there's 3 of them, will also provide trail access to the pathway that will go around the pond. So
What
Just-
road is that? Like, what is that west?
that one is 5900 west. It's
No,
No,
3,900 west.
39.
Sorry, 3900.
3,900 and, I'm sorry, I just feel like 3,500 is such a main road. Like, is that really going to be that big of a deal?
Should that be a main road or
You
is
really feel like
3,500?
that's going to be like the main road when you have 3,500 right here that is the main road already and it's so big?
But your difference is.
It's already set up, it's already set up.
I feel like
Like too much.
3,500 is your main road.
It is.
It's not gonna switch over to 3,900, even if it goes all the way to 2,550, you're still gonna have to jog
Yeah.
up to 3,500.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I feel like that's a weird thing to do.
So this won't be a main road. This will be a minor collector. So 3,500 is a major collector.
I mean, it's gonna be 100+ foot right of way road at build out on
3,550, correct. Or 3,500, sorry.
Driveway in the- that's just weird.
3,900 will be.
Don't you remember
80
those
foot
houses
wide.
we?
That's 80-foot
Down
tall.
there?
Yeah.
That's-
But I don't
you
know
got
if
big
that-
how much
I feel like
asphalt?
Park
that-
strips out,
So-
sidewalk.
What we've been working out as far as the 80-foot wide go
That's
is
vision on that.
unless they need turn lanes,
That was
it's
just subdivision.
32 feet of asphalt. It's 2 lanes.
So-
But it ended up being that size of
Let's-
collector of people's driveways on them. I mean, that's what
We need-
happened, killed last
Yeah.
year.
Make sure Cammy knows that.
Yeah.
Because people.
Say that again.
So the right of way street cross section, it's 80 feet, but the road itself might have 32 feet of asphalt. It's still residential in nature. Maybe it'll be 36 if Gary gets his way because he wants enough parking on the sides. I think that they can make it narrower because then you'll get less parking on the sides because nobody wants to park in the middle of the travel lane.
No, those still park.
Cause that 80-foot cross section has like a
Put the
10-foot
flashers on.
pathway and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
And if we had an alleyway in the back, we'd want parking out along the street for visitors and that to come.
Yeah, because that's where the front door would be.
So you might see a 36-foot wide asphalt cross section. It's 2 lanes and parking and then a pathway and some pretty big park strips.
Yeah, that's not as big when I start thinking about it.
And that's all of the 80-foot wide cross sections that you see on the general plan map. So all the ones that are dashed in white are intended to be something like that. In the future, if we do have frequent street crosses, you might see a 3-laner go in there. So 3 12-foot or so lanes, the middle one being a turn lane. But
That's as wide as that is intended to get.
So HOA, who maintains the roads? Actual Weaver County or an HOA?
The small private streets will be HOA, but the rest of the streets will be county. Tell your husband has job security.
Well, I'm just letting you know. He's not gonna be around for that. one, so He'll be fine. He's like, he's like.
Planning that.
All right, Mr. Hamlin, anything?
No,
else?
I think we're comfortable going for another work session with the commission and seeing what they say. I think we've addressed what their concerns were.
Yeah.
So.
So what's the process, just for me, what's the process?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask,
Kick it back and see.
You amend
Does it go
the
back through?
rezone?
Yeah, we're gonna bring it back to you guys in a
That's right.
public hearing.
Yes.
Why do we have another public hearing?
Just so we get a formal recommendation from you guys.
Cause we're not doing we've already held the public hearing on the 115,
It's just different. It's a different layout.
Well, so we have to have another public hearing.
but they're not going,
Well, the public should be happier because this
I
is
don't-
last, right?
I don't know that we have to, but
They asked us.
You're gonna start using
yeah,
that
the
driveway.
commissioners wanted a formal recommendation.
okay.
So we'll bring it before you in the next meeting,
Be
but
happy that
if you'd like, Doug, before we take it to them in the next meeting, we could get you on a work session with the county commission to make sure they're good with this.
It's probably smart.
Before we
Similar to what we did
take
with
it
that
back
last
to
one.
them.
Yeah.
We could even put it on the 22nd along with that, who was the guy before?
Trek.
Trek, yeah, we could, you guys both at the same time.
Wow, we're gonna have a
And
big,
that's on. that's
big data.
on Monday.
What's that?
Could we, if we did that on a Monday, well, you couldn't really plan a public hearing on the 23rd. Is that,
We don't have a meeting on the 23rd.
No.
so it'd be the 30th?
No.
It's gonna be May.
May.
The second Tuesday in May.
Well, then that'd give us time.
So then you, whatever their comments, if a change
Right.
needs to be made, it gives you time to, cause our next meeting is not till
14th of May.
14th of
Okay.
May.
All right. Yeah, that'd be fine.
So if we got you on the 22nd or the 29th of April,
Mhm.
it'd still be just fine.
Yeah, that would work.
You okay with that, Charlie?
Yes,
Feel it?
sorry.
Okay,
I'm paying attention, I promise.
won't be the first time.
Thanks, Doug.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate your time.
All right, meeting's officially adjourned.